Chapter 45-69. The Ancestor was an ancient 16-winged sky fiend celestial. No one knew how long he had existed. Therefore, it was normal for him to know about these things. If the crisis of the dragon continent is resolved, you can go to the dragon god's great world and see if there is a corresponding holy land to comprehend and improve your compatibility level. Kang Shinmu communicated with the Ancestor. Hee, your friends can do it, but you can't. The fiend celestial Ancestor chuckled. Your divine dragon heritage blood essence is the Chaos Heaven devouring dragon. The Chaos Heaven devouring dragon did not perish, so there is naturally no supreme sacred land formed by the Chaos Heaven devouring dragon's death in this world. Of course, the soul of the chaotic heaven devouring dragon is in your sea of consciousness. Your heritage blood essence is innately level 99, so you won't encounter a cultivation bottleneck. Don't worry. Hearing this, Kang Shinmu was a little surprised at first, but then he heaved a sigh of relief. There was such a thing? Including the ancient fiend celestial bloodline in your body, which is also my bloodline, the inheritance bloodline of the 16-winged sky fiend celestial. With me in your sea of consciousness, your bloodline compatibility with the 16-winged sky fiend celestial is also level 99. Even if you want to transform into a real ancient fiend celestial, there will be no bottleneck. That can be done. Kang Shinmu was even more surprised when he heard this. He did not expect that having two old antiques in his sea of consciousness would have such benefits. By the way, is there any way to see how compatible my friends are? Kang Shinmu suddenly asked. Compatibility itself is a very hidden thing. Even if I am the Ancestor, I can't help you. Of course, if it is a junior of the fiend celestial race, I can see how compatible they are with the fiend celestial race. The Ancestor said. Kang Shinmu heard this and realized that the Ancestor could only see the compatibility between the fiend celestial race and the ancient fiend celestial race. He could not see the dragon martial artists. But at this time, Kang Shinmu suddenly thought of something. If the Ancestor could see the compatibility between the fiend celestial race, could the black dragon's consciousness see the compatibility between the dragon martial artists? When Jiang Shenwu thought of this, he could not help but ask the fiend celestial Ancestor. Him? Of course he can see it, but is he willing to? The fiend god Ancestor seemed to glance at the black dragon's consciousness in the sea of consciousness and chuckled. This old black dragon sure is evil. If not for this venerate being in your sea of consciousness, this old black dragon would have long swallowed your consciousness and replaced it. Why would he help you check your friend's compatibility with the inherited blood essence? However, as soon as he finished speaking, a chaotic and overbearing voice was transmitted to Kang Shinmu's mind. Level 58, Level 59, Level 62, Level 72. It sounded like the voice of the black dragon's consciousness. For numbers appeared clearly in Kang Shinmu's mind, causing him to be stunned. Even Ancestor Fiend Celestial was taken aback. Old black dragon, you can actually communicate? Tell me, who's the lowest, level 58, and who's level 75? A dragon martial artist with a compatibility of level 75 can actually appear in a small place like the dragon martial continent? Ancestor Fiend Celestial was surprised and asked with interest. Kang Shinmu was also very surprised. He did not expect Black Dragon's consciousness to help him check. That was convenient. Level 58 means that before reaching the 8th level of the Dragon Emperor, there will be no bottleneck, and they can even easily break through to the 8th level of the Dragon Emperor. And level 72, that's amazing. They can break through all the way to the 2nd level of the Peerless Divine Dragon without any bottlenecks. Liang Xiao, Ran Ran, Xiao Yuhua, and Xiao Bai. Among the 4, 3 were about the same, and 1 was level 72. Then, who was level 72? Soon, Black Dragon's consciousness was transmitted to Kang Shinmu's mind, letting him know the compatibility of his 4 friends with the Divine Dragon's inherited blood essence. Liang Xiao was the lowest, level 58. Xiao Yuhua was level 59. At this level, she should be able to directly break through to the Super Divine Dragon, but it was hard to say. It would depend on her luck. If she could reach level 60 or 61, it would be very stable. Unfortunately, she was one level away. Xiao Bai was level 62, which meant that she could break through to the second level of the Super Divine Dragon without any bottlenecks. In the Dragon Martial Continent, this talent was already considered a super genius. I wonder what level the others are at. Kang Xinmu thought of Yu Tianchang, Feng Ligei, Ling Hudai, and even Din Yuyaji and Zhua Xiaofeng. Unfortunately, Black Dragon's consciousness was not easy to communicate with. When the time came, he did not know if he could ask Black Dragon to help him check the compatibility of the other's dragon blood. Old Black Dragon, it's better to come out and chat more often in the future. Anyway, with me around, you can forget about occupying this little guy's consciousness. It's better to cooperate with us. Ancestor Fiend Celestial was still rather mischievous. He was now teasing Black Dragon's consciousness. Unfortunately, Black Dragon's consciousness ignored him. It made a heavy snort and did not explain anything. Kang Xinmu always felt that Black Dragon's consciousness was a little strange. From the beginning until now, although he felt that it had some bad intentions, Black Dragon's consciousness did not seem to have done anything bad to Kang Xinmu. Could it be that this Black Dragon's consciousness was not the Chaos Heaven devouring dragon's consciousness? That was too strange, but Ancestor Fiend Celestial should not have made a mistake. Up until now, Black Dragon's consciousness had rarely communicated with them. It was usually in a state of silence. Instead, Ancestor Fiend Celestial seemed to be a chatterbox. Perhaps it was because he had been cooped up in the Void Saint Magic Ball for so long without chatting with anyone. After being cooped up for so long, he finally found someone to chat with, so he was always a little excited. Whatever situation Kang Xinmu encountered, Ancestor Fiend Celestial would take the initiative to answer him. It seemed that Ancestor Fiend Celestial's attentive behavior was more like he had some ulterior motive. In any case, Kang Xinmu's current priority was to increase his strength. He looked at Liang Xiao, Xiao Yuhua, and the others who were chatting and smiled as he patted Liang Zhao's shoulder. Don't worry, the few of you won't encounter any bottlenecks before cultivating to the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor. Brother Jiang, how do you know? Ran looked at him with some doubt. Kang Xinmu glanced at her and the corners of his mouth curled up. It's a secret. But I won't be wrong. All of you can successfully cultivate to the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor, at least the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor. As he said this, Kang Xinmu still had some doubts in his heart. Ran seemed to have some secret on her. Otherwise, how could she have such a high compatibility with the inherited blood essence? This meant that she could cultivate all the way to the level of a peerless dragon and not encounter any bottlenecks. In the entire Dragon Martial Continent, she was probably the strongest in history. Who knew what her background was like? As for the specific degree of compatibility between the four of them, Kang Xinmu did not tell them. After all, this involved many things, so there was no need to tell them in detail. He only wanted them to rest assured and know that he could break through all the way. Chapter 45-70. Knowing that he would not encounter any bottlenecks until he reached the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor, Liang Xiao was so excited that he could die. Xiao Yuhua and Ran were naturally excited as well. After all, many people would encounter bottlenecks when breaking through the inheritance blood essence of the Dragon Emperor level. Many old students of the Dragon Martial Academy were stuck at the 3rd or 4th level of the Dragon Emperor, unable to break through even after 100 years. In the end, they could only be persuaded by the Dragon Martial Academy to return to the Dragon Martial Continent and become a Dragon Emperor of the Dragon Emperor country. Although that was already very powerful, it still couldn't compare to becoming a Dragon Emperor instructor in the Dragon Martial Academy after breaking through to the 5th layer of the Dragon Emperor realm. That was much better. The 5th level of the Dragon Emperor is the level of the Dragon Emperor Mentor. I didn't expect that I, Liang Xiao, would have such talent, to be able to break through to the Dragon Emperor Mentor level without any bottlenecks. Liang Xiao laughed out loud. Although they did not know how Kang Xinmu knew about it, they trusted Kang Xinmu's words very much. After all, Kang Shinmu's existence did not make sense in the first place. Who could kill the already powerful Dragon Emperor at the Dragon King level, let alone an opponent at the third level of the Dragon Emperor realm? Kang Shinmu's ability to fight above his level had even reached the peak. There was definitely no one in this world who was stronger than him. He was already so heaven-defying, so it was very normal for him to be able to roughly see where everyone's bottleneck was. In that case, let's go back and cultivate first. When Xiaobai wakes up, let's have a good gathering. After saying that, Kang Shinmu bid farewell to Xiao Yuhua. He planned to go back and absorb the yellow-grade divine dragon marrow first. It was very likely the opportunity for Kang Shinmu's divine dragon inheritance blood essence to finally break through from the Dragon King realm to the Dragon Emperor realm. He had been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. He might even be able to break through from the 9th level of the Dragon King realm to the 2nd level of the Dragon Emperor realm. After all, the dragon mark energy contained in the divine dragon marrow was too rich, and it could be completely absorbed by a dragon martial artist. There would be no waste. It could be said that the divine dragon marrow was the best thing for a dragon martial artist to have a breakthrough. As long as this thing was consumed, it would forcibly raise the grade of a dragon martial artist's inherited blood essence. Its power was extremely domineering, and an ordinary dragon martial artist might not be able to withstand its power. However, Kang Shinmu, Ran, and Liang Xiao would definitely be fine. There was no need to mention Kang Shinmu and Ran. Both of them cultivated a body-tempering dragon martial technique, so it would not be a problem for them to withstand the impact of the dragon mark's energy. As for Liang Xiao, he had also cultivated the Dark Dragon Imperial Filth technique, a high-grade dragon origin martial technique, so his recovery speed was very fast. Moreover, now that Xiao Yuhua had given the Flaming Feather Storm Sphere to him for safekeeping, Liang Xiao would definitely be able to withstand the impact of the dragon mark's energy. Kang Shinmu returned to his palace alone. Ran and Liang Xiao naturally returned to their own palaces. This kind of thing could not be disturbed. It was best to break through in one go. Kang Shinmu took out the yellow-level divine dragon marrow and placed it in the center of the palace courtyard. He could feel the dragon mark energy continuously being emitted from it. This dragon mark energy was much denser than the surrounding environment. One had to know that Kang Shinmu was currently in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. The dragon mark energy in this place had increased once. But now, just the aura of the dragon mark energy emitted from the divine dragon marrow was already more than 10 times that of the dragon mark energy in the surrounding environment. Moreover, this was only 1/10,000th of the dragon mark energy that the divine dragon marrow truly possessed. One could imagine how dense the dragon mark energy was in the divine dragon marrow. This was a supreme cultivation resource taken from a supreme sacred ground. Not everyone had the right to obtain it. The divine dragon marrow was useless to the clan behind Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. That was why they could benefit Kang Shinmu and the others. After all, Kang Shinmu had killed 2 super geniuses of the virtual human tribe. This was a great loss. To the clans that hated the virtual human tribe, this matter was very satisfying. Using a few pieces of divine dragon marrow that were useless to them in exchange for this matter would benefit both parties. Divine dragon marrow, start absorbing. Kang Shinmu transformed into a dragon in his courtyard. A black divine dragon that was more than 4,000 feet long appeared in the courtyard. As soon as he appeared, a black devouring power surrounded his body. Under the darkness, he looked like a demonic divine dragon that had just emerged from hell. His entire body emitted a terrifying aura. The devouring power suddenly erupted and enveloped the divine dragon marrow. Then, the devouring power crushed the spherical divine dragon marrow into pieces. The endless dragon mark energy that was contained within the divine dragon marrow exploded at this moment. The dragon mark energy exploded in the courtyard. However, before it could spread out, it was devoured by Kang Shinmu's devouring power. If it were anyone else, it would be impossible for them to absorb the divine dragon marrow in this way. However, Kang Shinmu possessed the devouring power. Under the guidance of the demon god Ancestor, he knew that this was the fastest way. Anyway, his body was strong enough to withstand the impact of so much dragon mark energy. Therefore, if he wanted to absorb it, he should absorb it all at once. There was no need to divide it into several batches. That would be a waste. Devour. Kang Shinmu's devouring power surrounded his body. It devoured countless dragon mark energy and absorbed it into his body. For a moment, he felt as though his mystical dragon body was expanding. He had absorbed too much energy from the dragon mark, and the energy from the dragon mark was unable to fuse with his mystical dragon blood essence. It was squeezing his mystical dragon body. But soon, the dragon mark energy was devoured by the divine dragon inheritance blood essence in his body. The divine dragon inheritance blood essence was of the devouring attribute. At this time, the speed at which it devoured the dragon mark energy was almost at its peak. Even some dragon emperor mentors could not absorb it at such a speed. In an instant, Kang Shinmu felt that the divine dragon inheritance blood essence in his body was changing rapidly. It was boiling and emitting an unbearable heat. Amazing! Kang Shinmu could not help but grit his teeth. This method of devouring divine dragon marrow was impossible for ordinary people. Even in the dragon god's great world, if someone saw him devouring divine dragon marrow like this, they would scold him for seeking death. But for Kang Shinmu, this was the most efficient, fastest, and least wasteful method. With the many body-refining dragon martial arts techniques that he had cultivated, he could completely withstand the violent impact of the dragon mark energy. All of a sudden, the dragon scales on his divine dragon body began to split open, and countless streams of dragon blood splattered out, dyeing his black dragon scales a bright red. Chapter 45-71. The energy of the dragon mark surged into Kang Shinmu's body like a tidal wave, and his entire body was being scoured by the incomparably huge dragon mark energy flow. The dragon mark energy was constantly destroying his divine dragon body, but he had devoured the power of the Devil General's Devil Core, and the effect of the Dark Dragon Filth Mastery allowed him to recover in a short period of time. Pain, as always, enveloped Kang Shinmu's entire body. The dragon mark energy was constantly being devoured and absorbed, but there was still a lot of it constantly swimming in his divine dragon body. Under such circumstances, the high-level source body refining dragon martial technique and divine dragon tyrant body technique that he cultivated had been improved to a certain extent. I can feel that my divine dragon inheritance blood essence is becoming stronger and stronger after merging with the dragon mark energy. Now, Kang Shinmu could clearly feel this. This feeling had never been felt before. Even when he devoured and absorbed the treasures that contained the dragon mark energy, it was not as obvious as it was now. It was almost like the divine dragon inheritance blood essence was improving at 10 times the speed, and its grade was constantly skyrocketing. Dragon King to Dragon Emperor. Kang Shinmu felt that his divine dragon body was constantly being destroyed and constantly recovering. In the process, his dragon bones, dragon scales, dragon claws, all began to thicken and expand. Before Dragon Emperor, even at the peak of Dragon King, the essence of a dragon warrior could still be said to be human. But when a dragon warrior cultivated to Dragon Emperor, Kang Shinmu could clearly find that he could freely switch between the divine dragon form and human form. Even when he was in human form, he could explode with 50% of the power of the divine dragon form. Unlike before, where he could only unleash 30% of his strength, this was the life essence of a dragon martial artist. As the grade of the divine dragon inheritance blood essence increased, he was transforming into a divine dragon. Because of this, the level of Dragon Emperor was very important to a dragon warrior. Even if it was only one level of the divine dragon inheritance blood essence, the strength would increase a lot. That was because the life form of a dragon warrior was getting closer and closer to the complete divine dragon transformation. The cultivation of a dragon warrior was, in fact, a process of attuning to the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and constantly improving one's cultivation realm. At the same time, it was also a process of improving one's life form. It was said that when a dragon warrior cultivated to the peak, they could truly become a divine dragon that roamed the world. As for what level he needed to reach, no one knew. The fiend celestial ancestor was also very secretive about it. He did not discuss it with Kang Shinmu at all. As Kang Shinmu felt his divine dragon body growing bigger, his strength was also increasing. The upgrade of the inherited blood essence had directly transformed his devouring power, and his physical body had also become more tyrannical. He could feel that his dragon scales and dragon flesh had become firmer, and the temperature of his dragon blood had become higher. He could erupt with greater power at any time. Advancing to the Dragon Emperor would allow the Dragon Warrior's divine dragon body to become even tougher. It is equivalent to cultivating a body-refining dragon martial technique. This improvement may not be particularly obvious for an ordinary dragon warrior, but for those of us who have cultivated the body-refining dragon martial technique, it is a great change. After breaking through to the Dragon Emperor, I don't even need to activate the Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique's Guardian Stance when facing the Frost Bat's sonic attack. After breaking through to the Dragon Emperor, the strength of the Dragon Warrior's talent power would skyrocket. For example, after Ran and the others reached the Dragon Emperor level, the strength of their talent power had almost doubled. Because of this, it was said that the breakthrough from the Dragon King to the Dragon Emperor was the biggest hurdle for a dragon warrior. It was also the breakthrough with the greatest change. Kang Shinmu's divine dragon body was constantly growing bigger. The process of breaking through to the Dragon Emperor was equivalent to the remodeling of the divine dragon body. Ordinary dragon warriors would basically feel a lot of pain. After all, the dragon bones and dragon scales in their body would all be strengthened. But for Kang Shinmu, this pain was almost negligible. It was not as painful as the violent dragon mark energy that he had not yet absorbed and integrated into the inheritance blood essence. It was the pain that was wreaking havoc around his body. It was almost tearing his whole body into pieces. As Kang Shinmu broke through to the Dragon Emperor level, his divine dragon body became stronger. When he finished devouring the power of the Devil General's devil core in his body, he found that he could resist the invasion of the dragon mark energy even without devouring the Devil General's devil core. This was because he had broken through to the Dragon Emperor level. His divine dragon body had skyrocketed into a black dragon that was thousands of feet long. His physical strength had been strengthened, and the raging dragon mark energy around him was getting less and less. After all, he had been devouring the dragon mark energy. There is still a lot of dragon mark energy left. The divine dragon marrow is indeed extraordinary. Although it is only the lowest yellow rank, maybe I can take this opportunity to break through to the second level of the Dragon Emperor. Kang Shinmu set a new goal for himself. If he directly broke through to the second level of the Dragon Emperor, the devouring power in his body would become stronger, and his combat power would increase again. Now, his foundation was too weak. But after this, his foundation would catch up. Coupled with his strength in other aspects, he would definitely be able to beat countless dragon martial artists of the same level. Next, he would be able to dominate the entire battlefield of the 9 clans. Of course, the premise was that he would not encounter someone like the Evil Prince, who was a core member of the younger generation of the 9 clans. People like that had countless treasures and powerful weapons. For example, the Evil Prince's Crimson Rose fan was still not something that Kang Shinmu could resist. At least, if Kang Shinmu encountered the Crimson Rose seal, he could only rely on the devouring power to solve it. He could not use his own strength to break through it. It's because I haven't cultivated an offensive dragon martial skill. But, I really don't have time to cultivate it now. If Jiang Shenwu could cultivate an attack-type dragon martial skill, his explosive power would increase. However, even if it was just a high-level origin source dragon martial skill, it was not something that could be completed in a short period of time. If it was a Holy Spirit dragon martial skill, it would be even more difficult. It was basically impossible to cultivate a human-level Holy Spirit dragon martial skill from scratch to the dragon level in a year. Even reaching the earth level would be considered a genius. Therefore, Kang Shinmu had always handed the task of attacking to the other members of the team. As long as they could work together and improve, to Kang Shinmu, it would make up for Kang Shinmu's shortcomings. Moreover, when he really encountered a strong enemy, as Kang Shinmu had broken through to the Dragon Emperor blood essence, the effect of his devouring power would also be stronger. After devouring enough power, he only needed to use the Shadow Dragon Sky Raising Break to unleash an explosive power, and he would have a chance to kill his opponent. After all, he now had two methods to enhance his lethality. The first was the Snow Wind Dragon Pattern Stone, and the second was the Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique Strong Attack Stance. The energy of these dragon marks caused such great damage to me, and made my Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique improve by leaps and bounds. Chapter 45-72. The Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique belonged to the Body Tempering Dragon Martial Technique. Every time a dragon martial artist suffered a serious injury, it would improve a little. Therefore, now, Kang Shinmu was constantly injured by the violent dragon mark energy and constantly recovering. In the process of repeated serious injuries, his Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique was also constantly improving. Even if Kang Shinmu wanted to devour the dragon mark energy of the entire Divine Dragon Marrow, it would take more than a day. Kang Shinmu maintained such a posture. Not only did he not block the impact of the dragon mark energy on him, but he also allowed himself to be seriously injured by the dragon mark energy, and then recovered at an extremely fast speed. This Divine Dragon Marrow is really a wonderful thing for cultivating body-tempering dragon martial techniques. Kang Shinmu was quite delighted. But the demonic god ancestor snorted disdainfully, "Do you think anyone can cultivate like this? If not for your devouring talent, I'm afraid you would have died long ago. Such rich dragon mark energy, apart from you, no one else can absorb it like you." This was true. Kang Shinmu did not think much about it. Anyway, if he could do it, he would do it. As for whether others could do it or not, why should he care so much? Until 2 days and 2 nights later, Kang Shinmu finally absorbed 1/3 of the dragon mark energy around him. The grade of his Divine Dragon Blood Essence was also rapidly advancing towards the second level of the Dragon Emperor. But at this time, his strength had improved further. That was, the Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique had finally been cultivated to the dragon level. From the earth level to the dragon level, not only did it make Kang Shinmu's Divine Dragon Body tougher, it also made the 3 postures of power attack, defense, and dexterity stronger. Under the power attack state, Kang Shinmu could erupt with 3 times the lethality. This was a real 3 times the lethality. If it was combined with other offensive dragon martial techniques, the effect was simply terrifying to an unimaginable extent. In addition, under the defense state, Kang Shinmu's Divine Dragon Body became even more tyrannical. He could even use his physical body to resist the attacks of most opponents below the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor. Moreover, in his nimble state, his perception towards the void force would be enhanced, and the speed of his wind shadow flowing cloud flash movement dragon martial skill would become even faster. He would be able to execute it in an instant, and as long as Jiang Shenwu could react in time, no attack would be able to land on his body. Of course, many times, if the opponent's attack came too fast, Kang Shinmu would not even be able to react in time. Under such circumstances, he still had the body refining dragon martial technique to support him. If it were any other dragon martial artist, they would probably be killed before they could even display their defensive dragon martial technique. As Kang Shinmu cultivated the Divine Dragon Body Technique to the level, Kang Shinmu would probably start to consider when to exchange for another Rising Dragon Marrow. Rising Dragon Marrow and Divine Dragon Marrow sounded similar, but the effects were completely different. The Divine Dragon Marrow allowed Kang Shinmu's Divine Dragon Blood Essence to rapidly improve, while the Rising Dragon Marrow allowed the Dragon Martial Technique cultivated by the Dragon Martial Artist to reach the Saint level. It allowed the Dragon Martial Technique that was originally cultivated to the peak of the Heaven level to become stronger than the peak level. Some Dragon Martial Techniques could even transform into some powerful effects. This was because the Rising Dragon Marrow allowed the Dragon Martial Artist to dig deeper into the power of the Divine Dragon Bloodline, stimulating the bloodline in the body and giving the Dragon Martial Technique an opportunity to break through. The Divine Dragon Body Technique has already reached the dragon level. Is the heaven level still far away? I just need to suffer a little more injuries. Kang Xinmu thought to himself. As for reaching the heaven level, it would take some effort to break through to the saint level, but it should not take too much time. Kang Xinmu continued to devour the remaining dragon mark energy. After the divine dragon body technique broke through to the dragon level, he found that the remaining 1/3 of the dragon mark energy could no longer cause any harm to him. Therefore, he quickly devoured it and integrated it into his inherited blood essence. Finally, on the 3rd day, after absorbing all the dragon mark energy, he broke through to the 2nd level of the Dragon Emperor. In 3 days, from the peak of the Dragon King's divine dragon blood essence to the 2nd level of the Dragon Emperor, this was an unbelievable change. Ordinary people would need several years to break through to the Dragon Emperor, and several years to go from the 1st level to the 2nd level, or even decades. But after Kang Xinmu obtained the divine dragon marrow, he completed these 2 steps of transformation in 3 days. Cultivation resources are too important. The dragon martial continent is barren of resources. I wonder what kind of cultivation resources the dragon martial artists cultivated by the supreme holy lands in the dragon god's world have. Just the concentration of the dragon mark energy in the supreme holy lands is probably much higher than that of the 4 dragon martial academies combined. Kang Xinmu shook his head. He was born in the dragon martial continent, so there was nothing he could do about it. This was just a place where the dragon gods picked out dragon martial artists. If someone could rise in the dragon martial continent and catch the eye of the supreme divine dragon, then they would have the opportunity to go to the dragon god's world to receive better training. Otherwise, they could only stay in the dragon martial continent, grow old, die of illness, and reproduce. For Kang Xinmu, these were no longer important, because his current situation was destined to leave the dragon martial continent and go to other worlds. As for whether he would go to the dragon god's world, it was hard to say. The 2nd level of the Dragon Emperor. The 2nd level of the Samsara realm. And the divine dragon body technique has broken through to the dragon level. Kang Xinmu consolidated the breakthroughs during this time. Although his breakthrough in 3 days was great, his combat power did not explode as he had imagined. Because he did not have 100% control of his current power. If he wanted to fully grasp the power after the breakthrough, he still needed a period of nourishment. The nourishment of power and realm was also a very important process for dragon martial artists. For dragon martial artists of the same realm, there was bound to be a big gap between those who had just broken through and those who had broken through for a long time. Kang Xinmu estimated that if he could nourish all the power of this breakthrough, his strength would increase by as much as 30%. 30% was not a small number. It was equivalent to raising his cultivation realm by half a level. It should be known that for dragon martial artists, reaching the 9th level of the Samsara realm was generally considered to have reached the peak. It was very difficult to go further, or in other words, it would only be possible if he met higher conditions. Therefore, to be able to raise his cultivation realm by half a level meant that the upper limit of a dragon martial artist had increased. This was also very important to Kang Xinmu. In the past, when I had the dragon mark blood pendant, I could increase the speed of nourishment and could consolidate the changes of the breakthrough faster. But now, the dragon mark blood pendant is gone. Maybe I can choose another dragon weapon to help me consolidate my strength. Chapter 45-73. After Kang Xinmu finished absorbing the divine dragon marrow, he did not leave his palace immediately. Instead, he took out the cultivation resources for the power of void, intending to see if he could devour the power of void. The power of the void human tribe was adept at concealment and perception. These 2 aspects were top-notch, and they came from the power of void. This power was connected to the void, between this world and the void. It was the link between the 2 sides. If he could cultivate the power of void, it would only be beneficial for Kang Xinmu. Logically speaking, once a dragon warrior becomes a dragon emperor, his life form will begin to transform into a divine dragon. The demon god ancestor guessed, in the past, I've never heard of anyone who could cultivate multiple powers at the same time. The divine dragon blood essence is a type of inheritance, and the power of void is another type of inheritance. Even our demon god bloodline is a type of inheritance. Each type of inheritance mostly cultivates and changes your bloodline. Therefore, once you cultivate one type of inheritance, it will be very difficult to cultivate other types of inheritance. At least in the past, there have been very few people who can cultivate multiple types of inheritance. Furthermore, the power of void is not something that can be obtained easily. In the void human tribe, not everyone can obtain the inheritance. They have to go through some kind of ceremony to help people sense the power of void. If they can't sense it, they are not qualified to obtain the power of void inheritance. This is the same principle as you dragon warriors awakening the divine dragon blood essence. Of course, Kang Shinmu understood these words. However, since he wanted to give it a try, he could not give up. He smiled and said, "Then I still have the divine dragon inheritance and the demon god inheritance. What about these two types of inheritance?" The divine dragon inheritance is your intrinsic inheritance. At this moment, the deep voice of the black dragon consciousness sounded out in Kang Shinmu's mind. As for the other inheritances, you can use the power of devouring to cultivate them as supplementary inheritances. However, the disadvantage is that every time you cultivate an additional supplementary inheritance, the difficulty of cultivation will multiply. It is not that easy to cultivate. These words left the fiend celestial ancestor's consciousness stunned. Clearly, he had never encountered such a thing before. Looks like the chaos heaven devouring dragon is really powerful. The demon god ancestor immediately said, "Then, Kang Shinmu, don't cultivate this so-called power of void. When the time comes to cultivate the demon god's legacy, the cultivation difficulty will be too high. If you can't cultivate it, that would be tragic." The black dragon's consciousness said, "The demon god's legacy is already his first auxiliary legacy. The difficulty of cultivating it remains the same. If he were to cultivate the power of the void, it would be the third type of inheritance, which is also the second type of support inheritance. The difficulty of cultivating it would be doubled. So that's how it is. Suit yourself then." The demon god ancestor heaved a sigh of relief. He had hoped that Kang Shinmu would be able to cultivate the demon god's power of inheritance. After all, what Kang Shinmu had obtained now was the inheritance bloodline of the 16-winged heavenly demon god. According to him, it was the strongest and most ancient inheritance bloodline of the ancient demon gods. Cultivating it would be the most powerful. When Kang Shinmu heard the black dragon's words, he finally understood the most powerful aspect of the devouring power. That was the ability to cultivate all kinds of legacies. Many thanks, Senior Black Dragon. Kang Shinmu thought for a moment, then expressed his thanks and asked, "Then can the two of you tell me whether or not the power of the void is worth cultivating as the first auxiliary legacy? After all, there seem to be many legacies in this world. There's the Fey God race's legacy, the Sea God race's legacy, the Ancient Phoenix race's legacy, the Star God race's legacy." Kang Shinmu had a rough idea of these legacies, but he didn't know which one was stronger or which one was weaker. Although he could rely on the devouring power to cultivate the auxiliary legacies, every additional auxiliary legacy he cultivated would double the difficulty. Kang Shinmu had no choice but to be cautious in his choice. Under normal circumstances, the Dragon God's legacy is enough. You also have the Demon God's legacy, so it's more than enough for you to use in battle. The Black Dragon's consciousness continued in a deep voice, so if you choose an auxiliary legacy, just choose one that has a supportive effect. For example, the inheritance of the power of the void. Not bad, not bad. The Demon God Ancestor said, after mastering the power of the void, it will strengthen your perception of the void and your connection to space. It will greatly improve your movement techniques. This can be considered as increasing your speed, so it can be considered a form of support. So, it's not bad to cultivate the power of the void, but you can't focus on it. After all, it's just icing on the cake and not an ability to provide timely help. Kang Shinmu quickly understood what they were talking about and nodded. He was a little surprised. He didn't expect the Black Dragon's consciousness to take the initiative to explain these things to him. This was something that had never happened before. Although the ancient demon god ancestor's consciousness was clear about many things, it didn't understand the power of devouring enough. So if the black dragon's consciousness had not spoken, Kang Shinmu really wouldn't have known that the power of devouring could be used to cultivate other legacies. Hee hee. The demon god ancestor suddenly said, "Old black dragon, are you thinking of letting this kid cultivate a good foundation so that you can devour his consciousness and obtain a body with an excellent foundation? This sovereign is telling you, as long as this sovereign is in his sea of consciousness with you, you will definitely not succeed." Heh. The black dragon's consciousness didn't care about the demon god ancestor's words at all. It went silent, as if it had gone to rest. Kang Shinmu also couldn't be bothered with them. No matter what, the black dragon's consciousness was restrained by the demon god ancestor and couldn't cause trouble. They were restraining each other, which was a rare good thing for Kang Shinmu. Since that's the case, I'll cultivate the power of the void first. Although he hadn't cultivated the demon god's legacy, he still had to wait for Sui, the little princess of the demon god race, to send some cultivation resources over. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy for Kang Shinmu to cultivate the demon god's legacy. Be it cultivation techniques or cultivation resources, they were both indispensable in the path of cultivation. I'll primarily cultivate the dragon god race's legacy, the demon god race's legacy, and the power of the void. As for the other powers, I don't have to consider them for now. In any case, they'll be very difficult to cultivate. Kang Shinmu thought. He took out a large pile of cultivation resources for cultivating the power of the void. These cultivation resources had come from the two geniuses of the void human race. Unfortunately, they were now dead, so all of their things belonged to Kang Shinmu. To the void human race, the value of these things was probably comparable to the divine dragon marrow. It would be of great help and benefit to the cultivation of the power of the void. However, the key for Kang Shinmu now wasn't to raise his cultivation of the power of the void. Instead, he had to first obtain the power of the void. The power of the void is the same as the divine dragon's blood essence. From the start, there are many levels. Chapter 45-74. Soon, Kang Shinmu learned one thing. If one used the devouring power to cultivate and support the inheritance, they had to choose opponents with a higher starting point as their targets. For example, the two virtual human geniuses that Kang Shinmu had killed this time were such targets. Kang Shinmu knew that in the Yen Dragon Emperor's dynasty, those who could reach the heavenly dragon level after awakening the divine dragon inheritance blood for the first time were considered top-notch geniuses. In the entire dragon martial continent, there were countless dragon martial artists who reached the heavenly dragon level at the first awakening. The heavenly dragon level was not divided into 9 levels. Instead, it was divided into beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels. Those who could awaken the heavenly dragon inheritance blood at the first awakening were mostly beginner heavenly dragons. For example, Jiang Liuxue, who had awakened at the same time as Kang Shinmu, belonged to the beginner divine dragon inheritance blood. In the dragon martial continent, there were a few people who reached the intermediate heavenly dragon inheritance blood at the first awakening. These geniuses were likely to become existences like the dragon emperor in the future. Their compatibility with the inheritance blood was very likely to be above level 50. There were even fewer people who reached the advanced heavenly dragon after awakening. Such existences were considered top-notch existences in the dragon martial continent. They were only one step away from becoming a divine dragon. In the history of the Yen Dragon Emperor's dynasty, there were no such geniuses. As for those above that, there were very few who could reach the level of a holy dragon right after awakening, which was extremely rare. Once it appeared, it basically meant the birth of another dragon warrior. Correspondingly, the same was true for the power of void. The inheritance of the power of void also started from the mortal level to the truth level, then the heaven level, and finally the divine level. In the end, the deeper one's understanding of the power of void, the deeper one's compatibility with the inheritance of the power of void would become. One could obtain the king of void, and then the emperor of void. These two were equivalent to the level of the Dragon King and the Dragon Emperor. The two virtual human geniuses that Kang Shinmu killed this time were already in the Emperor of Void Realm. However, he did not know what level the Void inheritance they had obtained was at. Kang Shinmu followed the guidance of the Black Dragon's consciousness and began to use a special method to assist in cultivating legacies. He used the devouring power to form a devouring formation in his body. This was a formation that assisted in cultivating legacies. Kang Shinmu had devoured quite a lot of the power of the two virtual human tribe geniuses previously. He was still storing it up. Now that he was cultivating the legacy formation, he fused all of the power into it and prepared to devour the legacy for his own use. There were some risks in this process. The main thing was to see if Kang Shinmu had complete control over the devouring power. If there was any mistake, his devouring power would fail and the power would dissipate. Once this power dissipated, if Kang Shinmu wanted to cultivate void power again, he would have to find other void human tribe geniuses to devour their power. Activate the formation. Kang Shinmu quickly activated the formation. With extremely precise and subtle control, he activated the legacy formation that assisted in cultivating legacies. The devouring power revolved around Kang Shinmu like flowing water, forming a devouring vortex. Power continuously gathered in Kang Shinmu's body, gathering all the void power that he had devoured before. Soon, a lake of void power appeared in Kang Shinmu's body. When this lake of void power was formed, Kang Shinmu could feel ripples in the space around him. No, it was not a ripple. Instead, it was wave after wave of spatial ripples. Kang Shinmu had already devoured and obtained the legacy of void power. The waves of ripples were like the breathing and pulse of this world. Kang Shinmu could clearly feel them. If he followed the spatial ripples to unleash some movement dragon martial skills or spatial dragon martial skills, or even the power of a demonic weapon like the instant magic ring, he would be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. On the contrary, Kang Shinmu could even cultivate some of the techniques of void power to control these spatial ripples and disrupt the power of the surrounding space. In this way, he might be able to prevent his opponent from escaping at a critical moment. This legacy of void power is at the elementary divine tier. Very soon, the consciousness of the demon god ancestor evaluated Kang Shinmu. In other words, the two void human tribe geniuses that Kang Shinmu had devoured had initially obtained the inheritance blood essence that was equivalent to a divine dragon. One could imagine their status in the void human tribe. They were probably among the best of the younger generation in the void human tribe. In the end, they were killed by Kang Shinmu just like that. Kang Shinmu rubbed his nose. He felt that the two void human tribe geniuses were really unlucky to have encountered him. However, this had also helped him to cultivate this elementary divine tier void power inheritance. A low-level saint-level void power inheritance is equivalent to a holy dragon-level dragon warrior from the very beginning. This is very strong. The void martial skills of void power mainly control the spatial ripples around one's body and then launch some attacks, defenses, and even shape-shifting. The void power mainly cultivates totem martial skills. The totem martial skills of their tribe can control spatial ripples and condense some powerful void beasts. Void spiritual beasts are cultivated using this method and some other secret techniques. The two geniuses of the virtual human tribe that you captured had some virtual human technique cultivation methods on them, and they are of very high grade. You also have 4 virtual weapons on you, so you can summon the most powerful virtual totem and explode with powerful spatial ripples. It's a pity that the two void human tribe geniuses were trapped by your Crimson Rose seal. They were killed by you before they could unleash their full strength. How pitiful. Ancestor Fiend Celestial said wistfully. When Kang Shinmu heard this, he felt that the two geniuses of the virtual human tribe were really unlucky. It sounded like the void human tribe possessed extremely powerful combat prowess. Not only were they exceptional in terms of concealment and perception, but their combat prowess was also quite impressive. Void martial skills, void totems, these were cultivation paths that were completely different from the Dragon Warrior legacy. Kang Shinmu was quite curious about them. It just so happened that the two Void Human Tribe geniuses had quite a lot of cultivation resources on them, so he decided to use them to cultivate. What was worth mentioning was that the Black Dragon's consciousness indicated that after cultivating the auxiliary inheritance, Kang Shinmu's cultivation realm was shared. In other words, Kang Shinmu was currently at the second level of the rebirth tribulation realm. Therefore, when he used the phantasm skill, he would be using the second stage of the reincarnation tribulation realm. The power of the phantasm skill would be comparable to this level. However, the most important aspect of a phantom technique was the grade of the inheritance. This was as important as the grade of the Dragon Warrior's inheritance blood. Kang Shinmu's current grade of the Divine Dragon's inheritance blood had reached the second stage of the Dragon Emperor's inheritance. Therefore, when he used the Dragon Martial skill, he was at his strongest. He could fight many experts above his level. However, even though he cultivated the phantasm skill and used the void weapons, they were only at the beginner sage level void power inheritance. Chapter 45-75. Moreover, Kang Shinmu's understanding of the void was very shallow. It was basically impossible for him to fully unleash the power of the void techniques. It would be great if he could even unleash half of it. Of course, this did not mean that Kang Shinmu's cultivation of the void techniques was useless. Most importantly, the void techniques that Kang Shinmu had obtained were all top-notch holy void techniques. These holy void techniques were equivalent to the Holy Spirit Dragon techniques. Moreover, he had 4 top-notch heaven-grade void weapons with him. Although Kang Shinmu did not have a deep understanding of the void techniques, the things that he had were good. Even if Kang Shinmu could only unleash half of the void technique's power, he could still easily defeat a dragon martial artist of the same rank or even surpass a dragon martial artist of the same rank. Of course, his void technique was only at the beginner holy void technique. This was his disadvantage. Start devouring these holy void stones. The holy void stones were similar to the divine dragon marrow. They could increase the grade of the void technique of a void practitioner. However, the holy void stones that Kang Shinmu had obtained were not as powerful as the divine dragon marrow. The effect was not as good, but it was still good enough for Kang Shinmu. After all, these holy void stones were for the cultivation of the 2 void human tribe geniuses whose void techniques had reached the royal rank. Kang Shinmu's void technique was only at the beginner holy void technique. It was far from their level. If he devoured them, he would definitely be able to improve greatly. Ran and Liang Xiao will probably need half a month to absorb the power of the divine dragon marrow. I'll be done in 3 days. Next, I'll wait for them. I'll cultivate the void technique for a while and see if Xiao Bai has woken up. Kang Shinmu made his decision. He was not in a hurry to go to the 9 tribes battlefield. After all, the 2 geniuses of the void human tribe had just been killed. This would definitely cause a huge commotion. If he went out now, he would be courting death. As such, Kang Shinmu began to absorb the sacred void stones, preparing to raise the grade of his void energy inheritance. Moreover, at the same time, Kang Shinmu would also study the holy illusionary skills that the 2 geniuses had on them, as well as their specter weapons. He would strive to form his own battle strength in this aspect as soon as possible. After Kang Shinmu returned to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy to cultivate, the battlefield of the 9 clans became extremely lively. With the death of the 2 geniuses of the Void Human Tribe, the higher-ups of the Void Human Tribe were infuriated. They had sensed the aura of the Bloody Rose seal at the scene and believed that it was the work of the Demon God tribe. But on the Demon God side, the evil prince stood up and felt helpless. He had never been to the territory of the Void Human Tribe. In the face of the immense pressure from the Void Human Tribe, the evil prince had no choice but to compromise and tell them what had happened. When the evil prince told them what had happened, the situation became even more complicated, because his Bloody Rose fan had sealed a young female dragon martial artist from the dragon martial continent. He had originally wanted to use this to force the dragon martial artist to kill other dragon martial artists. However, he did not expect that the aura of the demon god tribe or the demon leader tribe would appear at the scene. It was obvious that someone from the demon god tribe or the demon leader tribe had taken away the power of the Bloody Rose fan. As for how it had been taken away, the evil prince did not care. But now that the Bloody Rose fan had appeared on the battlefield of the Void Human tribe and had even killed 2 geniuses of the Void Human tribe, it was obvious that someone had taken away the Bloody Rose fan's seal and framed him. The situation on the battlefield of the 9 clans became a little confusing. The demon god tribe and the demon leader tribe both stood up and denied that they had done such a thing. They asked the evil prince not to slander them. However, the evil prince naturally refused. They had indeed sensed the aura of the demon god tribe or the demon leader tribe at the place where Xiao Bai had been rescued. The demon leader tribe and the demon god tribe came from the same source. In fact, a long time ago, the demon leader tribe did not exist. Later on, the demon leader tribe split off from the demon god tribe. They also cultivated the bloodline of an ancient demon god. However, the demon leader tribe did not believe in ordinary demon gods. They believed in some ancient demon gods, which was slightly different from the demon god tribe. The power of both sides actually came from the same source. Now, they had split into 2 very large clans. Therefore, the evil prince could not tell which side the aura belonged to. In any case, it was the aura of an ancient demon god. Perhaps it was the aura of a demon weapon or a demon martial technique. In any case, it was related to the word demon. Therefore, the current situation of the 9 clans was very funny. The demon god tribe, the demon god tribe, the demon leader tribe, and the void human tribe were all involved. As for the other 5 clans, they were just watching the show. For a moment, the battlefield of the 9 clans quieted down. The demon emperors of the Dragon Martial continent, who had been planning to cause trouble, temporarily stopped and did not continue to do anything. Because the matter of the void human tribe's geniuses being killed was already troublesome enough. It caused the entire battlefield to be very chaotic. If they made it even more chaotic, it might not be a good thing for the Dragon Martial continent. Moreover, the demon emperor's original intention was to pretend to be demonic slaves and cause trouble everywhere, framing the demon god tribe. Now, the void human tribe directly went to the demon god tribe, saying that 2 of their geniuses had been killed and that they wanted an explanation from the demon god tribe. No one knew that the 2 geniuses of the void human tribe had been killed by Kang Shinmu. Now, other than Ling Hu Dai, only the clan behind Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy knew about this. And that clan, no matter who it was, whether it was the ancient Phoenix clan or the other clans, was now just watching the show. However, this eliminated one possibility. The clan behind Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy could not possibly be one of the 4 clans involved in the current conflict. The Void Human Tribe and the Demon God Tribe could be eliminated first. After all, no matter how stupid these clans were, they would not let the dragon martial artists kill their own people. The 3 clans that Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy wanted to deal with were the Void Human Tribe, the Demon God Tribe, and the Talisman Water Tribe. Originally, it was said that it could be the ancient Phoenix clan and the Demon Leader Tribe. However, now that the Demon Leader Tribe was also in trouble, it was obvious that it could not be the Demon Leader Tribe. It was basically confirmed that it was the ancient Phoenix clan. Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy seemed to have some connection with the ancient Phoenix clan. Therefore, even though the Supreme Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy did not have time to come to the Dragon Martial continent, he still took care of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. As for the students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, Kang Shinmu's results this time did not let them down. As for the situation on the battlefield of the 9 clans, Kang Shinmu was not clear. However, when he occasionally left the palace to rest in the academy, he heard a lot of news. He just smiled at it as if it had nothing to do with him. 7 days had passed since he started cultivating the inheritance of the power of emptiness. In these 7 days, he had gained a lot. However, from another point of view, the combat power that he could unleash with the power of emptiness did not change much. His power of emptiness was steadily improving through the absorption of the sacred void stone. However, it was not easy to raise it from the primary level to the intermediate level. It could only be said that there was some improvement, but not much. Most importantly, his understanding of the sacred void technique and the void weapon was too little. He did not know how to cultivate them at all, nor did he know how to use the void weapon. He had no way of getting started. Chapter 45-76. That's a little troublesome. Kang Shinmu was troubled. He had a high-grade holy void technique, which was the highest grade. He also had a spectral weapon that was equivalent to a heaven-grade holy soul dragon weapon. These were the strongest resources of the void human tribe. However, he had these resources, but he could not use them to their full potential. He could not learn a holy void technique. Without learning a holy void technique, he could not unleash much power from a spectral weapon. It was basically no different from not having one. Kang Shinmu thought about the dragon techniques that he was currently cultivating. He only had 3 high-grade dragon origin source dragon techniques at most. He had spent too much time cultivating these 3 techniques, and he had not even reached the peak. This was when he already had some understanding of most of the dragon martial techniques. After practicing many low-grade dragon martial techniques, he would have a better understanding of these high-grade source dragon martial techniques, and his comprehension would also be stronger. As for the power of the void, Kang Shinmu was completely blank. Therefore, it was normal for him to not be able to successfully cultivate the highest grade holy void technique. Even if he had the power of devouring, it was useless. He could not use the power of devouring to cultivate techniques. However, wait, the power of devouring might really be able to be used to cultivate techniques. Kang Shinmu suddenly thought of this. When he thought of this, the black dragon's consciousness in his sea of consciousness finally said indifferently, "Kid, it's not easy for you to realize this." The black dragon's consciousness had always known this, but it did not remind Kang Shinmu. It wanted Kang Shinmu to think of this on his own. Kang Shinmu, who had just thought of this, could not care less about the black dragon's consciousness. The power of devouring could devour any power, even objects. Previously, he felt that when he devoured some power, if this power came from a dragon technique or some special technique, he would have some understanding of the dragon technique or special technique. Now, he suddenly thought that if he continued to devour the power of a certain dragon technique, wouldn't he be able to deepen his understanding of the dragon technique and make it easier for him to cultivate it? For example, the Dark Dragon Art of Filth Control. Kang Shinmu's Dark Dragon Filth Mastery had already reached the peak of the Heaven rank, but he had yet to cultivate it to the Sage rank. Ran's Dark Dragon Filth Mastery was cultivated to the Saint rank, so her Dark Dragon Filth Mastery could provide her with a certain level of defense. There was even a very strong power of Dark Dragon Filth Mastery that enveloped her body, strengthening her defense. If Kang Shinmu could also cultivate the Dark Dragon Filth Controlling Art to the Sage level, wouldn't his defensive capabilities increase by another level? As I continue to devour the power of the Dark Dragon Art of Filth Control, my understanding of the art will increase. If I keep devouring energy, I'll keep comprehending it. I'll definitely be able to break through in the end. This is the shortcut to using the power of devouring to cultivate martial techniques. Moreover, if I want to cultivate the Divine Void martial technique, I can find some virtual human tribe members on the battlefield to train with me. As long as I keep devouring the power of the Divine Void martial technique, my understanding of the various Divine Void martial techniques will definitely increase. By then, it won't be impossible for me to cultivate the peak Divine Void martial technique. For example, the Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique and the Wind's Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash can all be devoured by me, as long as I can find a dragon martial artist who has cultivated these 2 techniques to the peak. I can ask them to help me cultivate the dragon technique and improve rapidly. As soon as Kang Shinmu thought of this, his face instantly became filled with joy. Why didn't he think of this before? All along, his strength had been restricted by 3 main aspects. The first was his cultivation base, the second was the grade of the Divine Dragon's blood essence, and the third was that his cultivation of the dragon technique was not high enough. He had been improving rapidly in the first two aspects. Now, he could also improve rapidly in the third aspect. How could he not be happy? This way, I'll need a lot of sparring partners. Let's not talk about the virtual human tribe's divine void martial technique for now. Now, I can think about the 3 high-grade source dragon martial techniques and see if they can help me break through quickly. Kang Shinmu thought to himself. On this day, he first went to see Xiao Bai. After a few days of rest, the young girl had already woken up and was not in any serious trouble. When she found out that Kang Shinmu had led a team to kill 2 virtual human tribe geniuses while she was resting, Xiao Bai could not believe it. What was even more unbelievable was that as soon as she woke up, Xiao Yuhua brought her to collect a large pile of guardian points, saying that Kang Shinmu had given them to them. Thus, Xiao Bai was rather embarrassed towards Kang Shinmu. Kang Shinmu did not say much. He only said, "When we get back, teach me your heaven-breaking ice slash. Maybe I can cultivate it." "Oh yes, and Xiao Yuhua, I want to try your phoenix dance burning the 9 heavens." If he wanted to improve the divine dragon tyrant body technique and the wind shadow flowing cloud flash, he could only look for a senior from Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy, Instructor Dragon Emperor. However, he was not sure if his idea was correct. Thus, he wanted to ask Xiao Bai and Xiao Yuhua for help first. Originally, he wanted to ask Ran Ran to help him absorb the power of the dark dragon filth controlling skill. Unfortunately, Ran Ran was still absorbing the divine dragon marrow. She was at a crucial moment in breaking through the divine dragon inheritance blood essence, so it was not convenient to trouble her. Of course, Xiao Bai and Xiao Yuhua would not reject Kang Shinmu's request. However, Xiao Yuhua still reminded him, "Kang Shinmu, I remember that you didn't want to spend time on cultivating the offensive dragon martial techniques in the past. Why do you want to learn our dragon martial techniques now? It is not easy to learn these 2 dragon martial techniques. Moreover, there is no need to display them before you break through to the heaven tier. Even if it was a high-grade origin source dragon martial technique, its power could only be displayed when one broke through to the peak of the heaven tier." Therefore, Xiao Yuhua did not recommend that Kang Shinmu try it. After all, cultivating a brand new high-grade origin source dragon martial technique required too much effort. She was worried that not only would Kang Shinmu not succeed in cultivating it, but he would also waste time on it and affect his improvement in other aspects. "Don't worry, I am just trying it out. Who knows, there might be a surprise," Kang Shinmu said with a smile. The 3 of them went to Kang Shinmu's palace. As Xiao Bai had just woken up and had not fully recovered, she was asked to watch from the side while Xiao Yuhua used the phoenix dance burning the 9 heavens on Kang Shinmu. Now that Xiao Yuhua had cultivated this high-grade origin source dragon martial technique to the saint tier, she could naturally write down a set of cultivation secrets for Kang Shinmu to cultivate directly. Of course, if she wanted to write down a set of cultivation secrets, it would be very complicated and would take a long time. For the time being, she wrote down some simple points, and then Kang Shinmu asked her to directly use the phoenix dance burning the 9 heavens on him. "Come on." Kang Shinmu transformed into the Dragon Emperor. The pitch-black Dragon Emperor was brimming with health and vigor. His 1,000 zhang-long dragon body roamed freely in the sky above the palace. Chapter 45-77. Xiao Yuhua wasn't worried that she would hurt Kang Shinmu. She couldn't even hurt Kang Shinmu in the past, let alone now that Kang Shinmu had broken through the divine dragon tyrant body technique to the dragon grade. More importantly, he had broken through 2 levels of the divine dragon's blood essence. From the 9th level of the Dragon King to the 2nd level of the Dragon Emperor, the increase in strength was not insignificant. Therefore, Xiao Yuhua attacked with all her might. The phoenix dance incinerates the 9 heavens was like a fire phoenix soaring above the 9 heavens. It landed on the body of Jiang Shenwu's black dragon with a loud rumble. The feeling of burning flames directly spread throughout his body. Devour. Kang Shinmu immediately unleashed his devouring power, which had reached the samsara level, and directly devoured all the power. To the current Kang Shinmu, it was indeed difficult for Xiao Yuhua to hurt him. However, the strongest point of Xiao Yuhua wasn't a single phoenix dance incinerating the 9 heavens attack. Instead, it was that as she was continuously attacked, the opponent's fire attribute resistance would continuously weaken. Even Kang Shinmu was the same. However, Kang Shinmu didn't care about this now. After devouring the sacred level phoenix dance incinerating the 9 heavens, he indeed had a better understanding of this power. The phoenix dance incinerating the 9 heavens is a flame power that has reached the pinnacle. Not only can it burn the opponent's body, but after reaching the sacred level, it can even burn the opponent's soul. Of course, this kind of burning isn't obvious. It's a hidden effect. Those who are enveloped by the phoenix dance incinerating the 9 heavens will feel anxious and similar emotions. This is the soul being burned. Of course, this dragon martial skill is only an origin dragon martial skill and not a Holy Spirit dragon martial skill. It can only affect the opponent's mental state, but it can't completely burn the opponent's soul. After devouring the power from Xiao Yuhua, Kang Shinmu gained some insights. Moreover, he let Xiao Yuhua continue to attack him with the phoenix dance incinerating the 9 heavens dragon martial skill, while he was responsible for devouring the power to restore the spiritual qi of heaven and earth and transfer it to Xiao Yuhua to replenish her body. In this way, there was basically no harm in this kind of training. In the process of being burned again and again, Kang Shinmu's comprehension of the phoenix dance incineration 9 heavens dragon martial technique gradually increased. The two of them continued like this for about 3 days. 3 days later, Kang Shinmu suddenly unleashed his devouring power, transforming it into fire-attributed energy and condensing it into a flaming phoenix. Phoenix dance burns the 9 heavens. I've succeeded. In the arena, Xiao Yuhua, who had been watching all this, was so shocked that she could not close her mouth. She had never imagined that Kang Shinmu could actually cultivate her phoenix dance burning the 9 heavens. Although what Kang Shinmu was displaying now was the phoenix dance of the burning sky, which she had just learned to cultivate to the human level, it was still a long way from the saint level. However, when she first started cultivating the phoenix dance of the burning sky, it took her 2 months. Kang Shinmu learned it in 3 days. Could it be related to Kang Shinmu's devouring talent power? Xiao Yuhua did not know much about the devouring power, but she knew that it was very powerful. Now it seemed that Kang Shinmu's talent power was probably stronger than she had imagined, and its use was more extensive. Even the dragon martial technique could be cultivated quickly through devouring. This was too heaven-defying. Although she was in the same team as Kang Shinmu, Xiao Yuhua was now a little jealous of Kang Shinmu. This guy's ability was too terrifying, right? It really works. Kang Shinmu's face was full of joy, and said to Xiao Yuhua, "Since I have learned it, why don't you write a secret manual for me, Xiao Yuhua? If I have a cultivation secret manual, I feel that my cultivation will be faster. At least it can shorten the time by half." Jiang Shenwu estimated. Right now, he was completely relying on the power he had devoured to feel and explore. He did not have the help of a cultivation manual. Even so, he only spent 7 days to complete the cultivation of Phoenix Dance Burns the 9 Heavens. Most importantly, in the process of devouring, his devouring power even formed a memory of Xiao Yuhua's fire attribute power. He could completely transform his devouring power into Xiao Yuhua's fire talent power, and use Phoenix Dance Burning the 9 Heavens. In other words, if Kang Shinmu cultivated this dragon martial technique to its peak, its power would not lose to Xiao Yuhua at all. "You're really a monster." Xiao Yuhua could not help but smile bitterly, and nodded. "Then wait for me for 7 days, I'll write down the cultivation secret manual for this dragon martial technique for you." Writing a secret manual still required a lot of effort and energy, and for such a high-grade origin source dragon martial technique to be written down in 7 days was already very fast. This kind of dragon martial technique that was obtained from the Dragon Martial Academy should not be shared among students. However, since the opening of the Void Crack battlefield, it was very normal for students to share the dragon martial technique with each other. However, if the relationship between students was not very good, who would be willing to spend their own time to write down a secret manual for the dragon martial technique that they had cultivated to its peak and teach it to you? Therefore, generally speaking, students also traded the dragon martial technique in private. However, it also required points, just that it was slightly cheaper than exchanging it from the academy. Moreover, the students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy were also strictly prohibited from imparting the dragon martial technique that they had learned outside of the academy. Once discovered, their student status would be revoked, and there would be many serious consequences. In other words, students could only share the dragon martial technique with each other. This situation was also a way for students to rapidly increase their combat power, and it was also one of the few methods that the higher-ups of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy could think of. With this kind of measure, Kang Xinmu could learn Phoenix Dance Burning the 9 Heavens from Xiao Yuhua. Otherwise, he would not have dared to let Xiao Yuhua write down the cultivation secret manual for Phoenix Dance Burning the 9 Heavens. It will take 7 days to write down the secret manual. Since that's the case, Xiao Bai, come and practice with me, so that I can learn the heaven-shattering ice slash as well? Kang Xinmu scratched his head and smiled at the young lady in white. The young lady rolled her eyes at him, but did not say much. She stood up slowly and transformed into a 10,000 zhang long white ice divine dragon in front of Kang Xinmu. In the following period of time, Kang Xinmu cultivated Xiao Yuhua's Phoenix Dance Burning the 9 Heavens and Xiao Bai's Heaven-Shattering Ice Slash. The two young ladies spent time writing down their respective dragon martial techniques into cultivation secret manuals, so that Kang Xinmu could practice according to them. From time to time, he would engulf their power to sense it. At this time, Ran Ran and Liang Xiao had finally finished absorbing the divine dragon marrow. Chapter 45-78. Soon, they found out that Kang Xinmu was not a monster. This was because what was even more monstrous was yet to come. Xiao Yuhua and Xiao Bai gave Kang Xinmu a dragon skill cultivation manual. Then, they fought with Kang Xinmu just like before. It was equivalent to them becoming Kang Xinmu's sparring partner. From then on, Kang Xinmu only spent 7 days to cultivate Phoenix Burning the Sky to Earth level. This meant that if Kang Xinmu had the cultivation manual from the start, he would have been able to cultivate it successfully in 3 days and reach human level. Then, from human level to Earth level, he would only need 7 days. At this rate, Kang Xinmu would only need less than 2 months to completely cultivate this high-grade dragon skill. This was too terrifying. The word monster was not enough to describe Kang Xinmu. Of course, the condition for Kang Xinmu to improve so quickly was that he had Xiao Yuhua and Xiao Bai, who had cultivated their corresponding dragon skills to holy level to attack him at least 100 times a day. If they had only cultivated their corresponding dragon skills to heaven level, even if they had reached the peak, Kang Xinmu's improvement would not be so fast. This was because when Kang Xinmu devoured his opponent's dragon skills, he could obtain a part of his opponent's understanding of the dragon skills. After consuming the rising dragon marrow and cultivating the holy level dragon skills, the understanding of the power contained in the dragon skills would definitely be more than double the understanding of a heaven-level dragon skill. This allowed Kang Xinmu's cultivation speed to double. In other words, as long as the dragon martial skill that I devour is stronger, my comprehension of it will be deeper, and I will be able to complete the dragon martial skill faster. If that's the case, the holy void skills should be the same. I'm going to devour some of the Void Human Tribe's Holy Void martial skills to increase my understanding of the various Holy Void martial skills. This way, although I might not be able to successfully cultivate their Holy Void technique, I will be able to comprehend the power of the Void and have a higher chance of successfully cultivating the top-notch Holy Void technique. In order to practice a high-level dragon martial skill, one must have a good foundation. Therefore, cultivating the Holy Void martial skills was the same. Kang Xinmu could absorb the power of the Holy Void martial skills used by other virtual humans to increase his understanding of the power of the Void. If he could devour enough power, his understanding of the power of void would definitely not be inferior to some of the genius cultivators of the void human tribe. To Kang Shinmu, this was the only way to cultivate the holy void technique of the virtual human tribe. Of course, Kang Shinmu did not know what use he would have for cultivating the holy void martial skills. He did not have any plans for now. After all, the battlefield of the 9 tribes was too dangerous. Moreover, the current situation was special. Kang Shinmu did not dare to go there casually. It was better for Jiang Shenwu to cultivate steadily and make his cultivation and strength stronger first. That was what he needed to do at the moment. Since devouring the power of the dragon martial skills can help me quickly break through the cultivation level of the dragon martial skills, then I can think about cultivating the divine dragon tyrant body technique and the wind's shadow flowing cloud flash. Teacher Ling Hu Dai should have cultivated these 2 high-level source dragon martial skills, right? I wonder what level she has cultivated them to. Would it be inappropriate for her to be my sparring partner and practice with me? Forget it. She's the only one who can help me now. I'll go look for her first. Then, Kang Shinmu did not hesitate. He pulled Ran Ran and the others and teleported to the Martial Dragon Fortress. Martial Dragon Fortress. More than half a month had passed since Kang Shinmu killed the 2 geniuses of the virtual human tribe. In this half a month, there were many ups and downs. Many major events had happened. First was the change in the names on the Dragon Emperor list. When Kang Shinmu passed by, he took a look at the current Dragon Emperor list and found that there were many names he did not recognize on the Dragon Emperor list. It was still in the top 100, but Great Liang's Dragon Emperor's name was no longer on it. Kang Shinmu took a closer look and found that there was a secondary list of Dragon Emperor. Great Liang's Dragon Emperor was ranked 165th on the secondary list. Originally, he was in the 90s. In other words, the current Dragon Emperor list suddenly had about 70 people squeezed up. It's people from the hidden Dragon Warrior family. Kang Shinmu narrowed his eyes and thought. He thought of the 13-member Dragon Warrior team of the hidden Dragon Warrior family that he saw when he was near the Dragon Emperor list last time. He wondered how they were doing now. Chu Yueqiang and Tan Shoujua are also in the top 20 on the Dragon Emperor list. They seem to be one of the strongest mentors in Donghuang Yangwu College. I didn't think of it before, but now it seems that their divine dragon inheritance blood essence has reached the 7th and 8th level of the Dragon Emperor list. They are not far from becoming super divine dragons. As for now, their cultivation is even higher. He hadn't seen Chu Yueqiang for a long time. This mentor had helped Kang Shinmu a lot, but after Kang Shinmu left, he didn't communicate with her anymore. After all, she was the Dragon Emperor mentor of Donghuang Yangwu College. It was indeed inconvenient for her to keep in contact with the students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. The key was that Kang Shinmu defected from Donghuang Yangwu College. Of course, Kang Shinmu's impression of Chu Yueqiang was that she paid more attention to her own cultivation. As for other matters, she would rarely pay attention to them. Therefore, she probably didn't care about Kang Shinmu's matter. Although she felt that Kang Shinmu had suffered unfair treatment, she hadn't reached the level of super divine dragon. She had no right to speak in front of Zhou Xiaofeng, so it was useless to say anything. Therefore, she simply didn't show up and didn't say anything. When Kang Shinmu saw Chu Yueqiang's name on the Dragon Emperor leaderboard, he sighed a little. He shook his head and led Ran Ran and the other 3 to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. Along the way, he heard a lot of news, mostly about the battle between the 9 clans. It was said that the virtual human tribe, whose 2 geniuses were killed, had reached an agreement with the demon god tribe, and the situation was temporarily stabilized. As for what kind of agreement it was, the dragon martial artists at the Dragon Martial Fortress naturally didn't know. It was said that there was a mission at the Dragon Martial Fortress. No matter who could find out the specific content of the agreement, they would receive special rewards from many clans. They definitely wouldn't be disappointed. This was because the other clans were paying attention to the overall situation. After all, the virtual human tribe had 2 geniuses killed. This matter was still very big. The attitude between the virtual human tribe and the demon god tribe was very likely to affect the competition between the 9 clans. However, unexpectedly, the whole matter seemed to have ended the day after the agreement was reached. Chapter 45-79. When Kang Shinmu received this news, he was secretly on his guard. Of course, he wasn't sure about the details of the agreement between the demon god tribe and the void human tribe. However, he could roughly guess that the demon god tribe would definitely clarify that Mr. Yao Xie didn't kill the genius of the void human tribe after the initial conflict between the 2 sides calmed down a little. Under such circumstances, the void human tribe would definitely not be satisfied. Hence, the demon gods would probably propose a condition to help them find the real murderer or something like that. In this way, Kang Shinmu would probably be in more danger. It was not because the people who knew that he had killed the void human tribe geniuses would spread the news. Instead, it was because the only people that the evil prince knew had come into contact with the seal of the bloody rose were Kang Shinmu and the others. Although the aura of the instant demon ring had been left behind, causing people to mistakenly think that it was done by the demon god tribe, the demon god tribe had denied it. They had never had any enmity with the void human tribe. How could they have gone to the demon god tribe's battlefield to collect the power of the bloody rose seal and use it to kill the void human tribe geniuses? Moreover, even if the demon god tribe wanted to kill the 2 void human tribe geniuses, did they need to deliberately frame the demon god tribe? Any elder that the demon god tribe had sent could have killed the 2 geniuses. Moreover, if the demon god tribe really wanted to frame them, they would not have left behind the aura of the demon god tribe. Hence, it was impossible for the major races not to see this problem. Since that was the case, as the only person who was known to have come into contact with the seal of the bloody rose, Kang Shinmu was very suspicious. Unfortunately, on the battlefield with the void human tribe, all the void spirit beasts that had seen Kang Shinmu had been killed. The 2 void human tribe geniuses had also died. No one had seen him go to the battlefield with the void human tribe. Before they set off, Kang Shinmu and the others had also kept a low profile. Moreover, there were only 3 of them. In the Dragon Martial Fortress, no one knew about this. Of course, there was one thing that Kang Shinmu had to pay attention to. Xiao Bai, don't participate in the upcoming operation. Otherwise, you might be in danger. Kang Shinmu brought Xiao Bai and the other 3 to the office of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy and said to Xiao Bai. Xiao Bai was a little confused, but after Xiao Yuhua whispered something in her ear, she understood and nodded solemnly. Okay, then I'll stay in the office and cultivate. I'll wait here for you guys to come back. Remember to be careful. Also, if I can go out, remember to remind me. Yes. Kang Shinmu smiled, don't worry, we'll definitely give you a share of the points we get from this operation. We won't let you fall behind. If I'm not allowed to participate in actual combat, no matter how many points I have, I'll still fall behind. Xiao Bai glanced at him and sighed. Kang Shinmu shook his head. He couldn't do anything about it. However, he really couldn't let Xiao Bai appear in front of the public. Fortunately, they didn't meet anyone along the way. Otherwise, if the news of Xiao Bai's reappearance reached the ears of the 9 major races, then Kang Shinmu would become even more suspicious. After all, the main thing now was that Xiao Bai had disappeared. If Xiao Bai reappeared, wouldn't it mean that the disappearance of the power of the Bloody Rose's seal had something to do with Kang Shinmu's team? Because of this, Kang Shinmu let Xiao Bai stay in the office and not go out for the time being. Kang Shinmu didn't plan to leave for training for the time being. Instead, he looked for Ling Hu Dai, and explained to her about the divine dragon tyrant body art and the wind shadow flowing cloud flash. He wanted to use the devouring power to quickly cultivate these 2 high-level source dragon martial techniques. Unfortunately, no one in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy had cultivated the wind shadow flowing cloud flash. As for the blade shadow flowing cloud flash, it was quite a coincidence that Ling Hu Dai, had cultivated it herself. Furthermore, she had cultivated it to the extreme saint realm. The so-called extreme saint realm meant that one had cultivated the dragon martial skill to its pinnacle, reaching the strongest level. Generally, after using the rising dragon marrow, a dragon martial artist could cultivate the dragon martial technique to the saint level. However, to cultivate to the extreme saint realm, other things were needed. Currently, Kang Shinmu and the others couldn't come into contact with this thing. Only those at the level of Mentor Dragon Emperor could come into contact with it. After all, this thing was very precious. Even if Kang Shinmu and the others knew of its existence, it would be very difficult to exchange for it. Most importantly, at their level, they still couldn't bear this power. Therefore, only those who had reached the level of the Dragon Emperor's legacy blood essence would know of its existence. This level was the level of Mentor Dragon Emperor. Even Feng Ligay, Yu Tianchang, and the others definitely knew of its existence by now. Disregarding everything else, when Kang Shinmu heard that Ling Hu Dai, the Dragon Emperor's wind shadow flowing cloud flash, had already cultivated it to the extreme saint realm, he was very happy. This meant that if Ling Hu Dai, was willing to be his sparring partner, he could cultivate the wind shadow flowing cloud flash to an even higher level at an extremely fast speed. Of course, as the strongest mentor in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy after Yu Yaji, Ling Hu Dai, was usually very busy. It was a big problem if she had the time to be Kang Shinmu's sparring partner. Therefore, after thinking about it, Kang Shinmu could only reluctantly part with what he treasured. He still had many things on him. The main ones that were of high value and could be used to exchange were the 4 Spectre weapons. The 4 were all heaven-grade Spectre weapons. To Kang Shinmu, they were not very useful. He studied them for a long time but still could not figure out how to use them. Rather than keeping them for him to use in the future, he might as well use them to exchange for his own strength. That was the most appropriate way. Therefore, he asked Ling Hu Dai, senior mentor, I wonder if you have a heaven-grade divine dragon weapon? Why are you asking this? Ling Hu Dai, smiled and said, could it be that you have a heaven-grade divine dragon weapon and want to exchange it with me so that I can be your sparring partner? I'm just imparting you some experience of the wind shadow flowing cloud flash, and you want to exchange it with a heaven-grade divine dragon weapon? Isn't that a bit too much of a loss? Kang Shinmu could only scratch his head and said, that's not it. Senior mentor, this ability of mine, it's hard to explain. In short, it's not just a matter of imparting experience. My sparring partner is different from normal sparring partners. It will take up a lot of your time. Ling Hu Dai, narrowed her eyes and looked Kang Shinmu up and down. She said, since that's the case, I'll give you a price. A heaven-grade divine dragon weapon. If you're willing to exchange it, I can give you half a month's time. Half a month's time, and she could earn a heaven-grade divine dragon weapon. This was the power of Ling Hu Dai, Chapter 4580. Ling Hu Dai's strength had been ranked 3rd on the Dragon Emperor leaderboard before the Hidden Dragon clan had entered the leaderboard. That was an extremely terrifying existence. And now, after the many seniors of the Hidden Dragon clan had entered the leaderboard, Ling Hu Dai, as a junior, was still ranked 5th. This already showed how strong she was. With her strength, earning a heaven-rank Saint Spiritual Dragon weapon in half a month was definitely not an exaggeration. Therefore, she had asked Kang Shinmu to use a heaven-grade divine dragon weapon in exchange for half a month's time. This was not too much, and could be considered as giving Kang Shinmu preferential treatment. After all, her strength and cultivation level were about to break through to the super mystical dragon level. Once she broke through, a heaven-grade divine dragon weapon would not be too strong for her. At that time, she would be able to obtain a dragon weapon that was even better than a heaven-grade divine dragon weapon. Super mystical dragons did not carry divine dragon weapons with them, but super mystical dragon weapons. Super mystical dragon weapons were the dragon weapons used by super mystical dragons. As for supreme mystical dragons, they used supreme dragon weapons. Those were existences of an even higher level. To Ling Hu Dai, a heaven-grade divine dragon weapon did not mean much. But to Kang Shinmu, she still wanted to see what was so special about it. Kang Shinmu said that he could use the shadowy sunset flash through her to increase the speed of his training. She was quite curious about this. However, she could not help Kang Shinmu for free. Therefore, she needed payment. Half a month, okay. Kang Shinmu sighed. He now had 4 heaven-grade divine weapons. They were of little value to him, and if he took them out to exchange, it would be too conspicuous. If he gave them to Ling Hu Dai, it would be considered as getting rid of the stolen goods, and reducing his future troubles. According to the previous ratio, the value of these 4 phantom weapons was 2 for 1 compared to the dragon weapon. In other words, this was equivalent to 2 heaven-grade divine dragon weapons. Kang Shinmu could give them to Ling Hu Dai, one by one. He wanted to see how much his wind shadow flowing sunset flash could improve in a week. If the effects were good, he could even give them all to Ling Hu Dai, Then, senior mentor, please take a look at this. How much time can it be exchanged for? Kang Shinmu then tried to take out one of the heaven-class spectral weapons. This was a spectral energy weapon that looked like a roulette. Its entire body shone with a star-like blue light, and it contained a supreme void pattern. There was a dense void power circulating within it, activating the void formation within it. This is a phantom weapon? When Ling Hu Dai, saw this, her brows twitched in surprise. So you're still hiding something. This specter divine weapon looks even more powerful than the ones you handed over earlier. Its quality is even higher. I'm afraid this is a sky-level void energy weapon. My goodness, looks like you've gotten a lot of good stuff. Just this specter divine weapon alone feels like it's definitely above sky level. If you give it to me, I'll give you 10 days. After all, a specter divine weapon is different from a divine dragon weapon. I can't use it directly. 10 days. This result was already better than Kang Shinmu had expected. He had thought that he only had 7 days. Alright, 10 days it is. This specter divine weapon is yours. Kang Shinmu directly handed the roulette divine weapon to Ling Hu Dai, Ling Hu Dai, raised her hand and caught it. She was quite happy to be able to obtain a divine spirit dragon armament. Perhaps someone of her status and level had some special channels to exchange it for a divine spirit dragon armament at a more favorable rate. That's right, Kang Shinmu. Ling Hu Dai, suddenly said, the last time you handed over 2 specter divine weapons, you can exchange them for a dragon-level divine dragon weapon. The higher-ups have already sent a few for you to choose from. Do you want to choose now? Actually, about 10 days ago, these dragon weapons arrived. However, you seem to be cultivating at Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, so I didn't disturb you. Kang Shinmu nodded. He had long been thinking about this divine dragon weapon. A dragon-level divine dragon weapon was even stronger than a snow wind dragon stone. Below the divine dragon weapons that super mystical dragons could use, a dragon-level divine dragon weapon was second only to a sky-level divine dragon weapon. There was no way around a super mystical dragon weapon. Only those that reached the level of the super mystical dragon legacy blood essence would be able to withstand its impact. Hence, if Kang Shinmu obtained a dragon-level divine dragon weapon now, he had already surpassed many of his peers. Even in the great world of the dragon gods, at his level of cultivation and blood essence, there were very few dragon martial artists who could obtain a dragon-level divine dragon weapon, except for some old fellows. For many young people, unless they were geniuses from some supreme holy lands, at his level of cultivation, they could only obtain an earth-level divine dragon weapon. Just like the snow wind dragon stone, that was already the limit. Then let's choose first. Kang Shinmu said excitedly. Then, Ling Hu Dai, brought him to choose the dragon-level divine dragon weapons that had been sent down. Originally, dragon-level divine dragon weapons were the ultimate treasures of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. They couldn't be taken out for students. However, the clan behind Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy should be the ancient Phoenix clan. Now, they had taken out 10 dragon-level divine dragon weapons for Kang Shinmu to choose. As for the remaining ones, according to Ling Hu Dai, they still had to be returned. Unless someone performed a meritorious deed and satisfied the big boss of the clan, there would be new rewards. To Kang Shinmu, the 9 major clans were like treasure vaults. There were too many treasures stored in them. It was a pity that he couldn't retrieve these treasures. In fact, if one of the 9 clans occupied the Longwu continent 3 years later, most of the living beings on the Longwu continent would become their slaves. Soon, Kang Shinmu followed Ling Hu Dai, to a sealed treasure vault. The treasure vault was simple and elegant. The environment seemed a little dull, but the beauty of an ancient palace could be seen everywhere. The surrounding walls were even engraved with soaring flaming phoenixes. These engravings on the walls must be the symbol of the ancient Phoenix clan. This treasure vault was probably built by the ancient Phoenix clan. They specially built such a contact point in the office of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. The consciousness of the demon god sounded in Kang Shinmu's mind. If I'm not wrong, there must be a space-time array in this treasure vault that can connect to the ancient Phoenix clan's stronghold outside. They can use it to contact Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. It can't be, right? Doesn't that mean, if the ancient Phoenix clan wanted to kill their way into our Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, it would be a piece of cake? Kang Shinmu was a little shocked. What are you afraid of? The demon god disliked him for making a fuss over nothing. He snorted and said, even without the space-time array, do you think the ancient Phoenix clan has no way to invade the Longwu fortress? To the ancient Phoenix clan, this fortress is as fragile as an eggshell. The only thing they won't be able to pass through is the sky barrier above the Martial Dragon continent. That's below the Martial Dragon fortress. Even if they manage to occupy the Martial Dragon fortress, they won't be able to pass through the sky barrier and reach the Martial Dragon continent. Chapter 4581. While Kang Shinmu was sizing up the palace treasury, Ling Hu Dai, walked to the center of the palace treasury. In the center of the palace treasury, there was a stone phoenix sculpture. It looked like it was about to take flight, and its body was surrounded by a faint fiery red light. On the wings of the phoenix sculpture, there were 2 unique feathers. They were 2 feathers that were truly burning with flames. Ling Hu Dai came to the left wing of the phoenix sculpture. With a wave of her hand, a small cluster of flames flew out and landed on the special flame feather. Immediately after, a burst of jewel light blossomed from the feather. A total of 10 dragon-grade Holy Spirit dragon weapons flew out from the flame feather. The 2 flame feather were actually 2 spatial treasures. They could hold many things inside, but no one knew how big the space was. Currently, Kang Shinmu's attention and gaze were attracted by the 10 dragon-grade Holy Spirit dragon weapons. These are all dragon-grade Holy Spirit dragon weapons. To be honest, some of them even move my heart. Ling Hu Dai said with a smile. Of course, she was just joking. It should be known that even if Jiang Shenwu gave her a sky-grade phantom weapon, she would only need 10 days to earn one. These dragon-grade divine spirit dragon weapons, to her, she could probably earn one in 3 days. Kang Shinmu did not waste any time and immediately began to look through the 10 dragon-grade Holy Spirit dragon weapons. This one is the offensive type. This one is the defensive type. This one is the concealment type. Kang Shinmu looked through the dragon-grade Holy Spirit dragon weapons one by one. Each dragon weapon basically had about 400 battle runes. If it was a pure offensive type battle rune, then even if it had 400 battle runes, it could increase the strength of a dragon warrior by 4 times. This was an extremely terrifying existence, but to Kang Shinmu, the effect was not good, because Kang Shinmu himself did not have any strong dragon martial skill to support. Even if his strength increased by 4 times, he could not burst out with any method that could instantly kill his opponent. That was why he had chosen the Snow Wind Dragon Stone earlier, because it came with the elementary Divine Spirit Dragon martial skill, Snowstorm. If it was only because it could double his strength, Kang Shinmu really wouldn't be interested in it. 4 times the attack power. This is too strong. How good would it be if I could choose 2 of them? Kang Shinmu sighed with emotion. Unfortunately, he could only choose one of these dragon-grade Saint Spirit Dragon weapons. He only had 1 chance. He had to choose the one that suited him best. In terms of offense, the Blizzard Dragon Rune Stone was more than enough. To him, there wasn't much meaning in choosing another offensive divine spiritual dragon weapon. But, this stealth-type Holy Spirit Dragon weapon seems pretty good. Kang Shinmu quickly looked at a dark stone among the 10 dragon-grade Saint Spirit Dragon weapons. This dark stone was engraved with a black dragon carving. It looked inconspicuous, but it was this inconspicuous that attracted Kang Shinmu's attention. This dark stone was too inconspicuous. Among the 10 dragon-grade Saint Spirit Dragon weapons, only this thing was black. At a glance, it seemed that there were only 9 dragon-grade Saint Spirit Dragon weapons for Kang Shinmu to choose from. This is a stealth-type Holy Spirit Dragon weapon. There are 320 stealth-type battle runes and 120 speed-type battle runes. Kang Shinmu narrowed his eyes. Stealth-type battle runes, as the name suggested, were battle runes with a stealth-type effect. After activating this Holy Spirit Dragon weapon, one could use its power to conceal oneself, and even conceal things within a certain range. After all, there were 320 stealth-type battle runes, which could completely conceal everything within a 320 zhang radius. If it's a heaven-level stealth-type Holy Spirit Dragon weapon, I'm afraid there would be 600 to 700 stealth-type battle runes, which could conceal anything within a 600 to 700 zhang radius. But the body of a divine dragon at the level of the Dragon Emperor is thousands of zhang long. It's impossible to conceal a transformed dragon martial artist. This dragon-grade Saint Spirit Dragon weapon is more than enough. Kang Shinmu was just wondering if he could bring Xiao Bai along. But with this stealth-type Holy Spirit Dragon weapon, he could bring all of them along. He could let the stealth-type Holy Spirit Dragon weapon hide them, and then suddenly appear at the critical moment to kill the opponent. Furthermore, Kang Shinmu could use this stealth-type Holy Spirit Dragon weapon to conceal the 5 of them. That way, it would be much safer on the battlefield of the 9 great tribes. Although some experts could still see through the stealth-type Holy Spirit Dragon weapon, Kang Shinmu had another method, which was to fuse with the stealth-type ability of the Nightmare Ink Beast. All this while, it had been very difficult for Kang Shinmu to conceal himself from opponents of the same level with the stealth-type Holy Spirit Dragon weapon alone. But, if the stealth-type Holy Spirit Dragon weapon was used with the stealth-type Holy Spirit Dragon weapon, their stealth-type ability would reach a whole new level. The Nightmare Ink Beast has yet to completely fuse with me, but it has allowed my senses and stealth-type abilities to reach a whole new level. The main reason was that the stealth-type Holy Spirit Dragon weapon enhanced Kang Shinmu's own stealth-type ability. Originally, Kang Shinmu didn't have any stealth-type abilities, so he could only conceal his aura slightly. But if he had this Holy Spirit Dragon weapon, the situation would be different. I'll choose this one. This stealth-type Holy Spirit Dragon weapon is called the Black Stealth-type Dragon Stone. Kang Shinmu narrowed his eyes and chose the Black Stealth-type Holy Spirit Dragon weapon. After he chose the Black Stealth-type Dragon Stone, Linghu Dai directly threw the other 9 dragon-grade Holy Spirit Dragon weapons back into the storage space of the Flaming Feather. The light from the Holy Spirit Dragon weapons disappeared from the palace treasury. Only a jet-black Black Stealth-type Dragon Stone was left. Linghu Dai didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Kang Shinmu, are you planning to become an assassin? Or are you planning to become a thief? Linghu Dai never expected Kang Shinmu to choose the Black Stealth-type Dragon Stone. But although her words were mocking, her expression was very satisfied. Among the 10 dragon-grade Holy Spirit Dragon weapons, the Black Stealth-type Dragon Stone was indeed the most suitable for the current battlefield environment of the 9 great races. After all, safety was the most important. Being able to conceal oneself was definitely the best. There weren't many types of Holy Spirit dragon weapons that possessed the stealth-type ability. This was because stealth-type battle runes were extremely difficult to create. Even in the dragon god's world, they were extremely rare. Although it was only a dragon-grade Holy Spirit dragon weapon, its effects were extremely good. Although it couldn't increase the battle prowess of a dragon warrior, it could assist the dragon warrior in another aspect, greatly increasing their ability to protect themselves. Senior Mentor, this thing is more suitable for the current battlefield environment of the 9 great races, isn't it? Chapter 4582. Linghu Dai nodded her head. This black concealing dragon stone is not bad. However, you need to be careful. You cannot use it to move about recklessly. You should know that there are many experts with very strong perception. Even if you possess the black concealing dragon stone, you might still be discovered by some of the experts from the 9 great clans. Kang Shinmu nodded his head seriously. Then, he held the black concealing dragon stone in his hand and suddenly activated its ability. He enveloped his body with the black concealing dragon stone's ability. Then, he took 2 steps to the left, then 2 steps to the right. In Linghu Dai's eyes, Kang Shinmu suddenly seemed to be covered by a layer of gray mist. Then, the mist instantly dissipated. Even Kang Shinmu's body disappeared. However, Linghu Dai's eyes narrowed. Her perception ability had increased to a certain extent. This was some sort of dragon martial technique that strengthened perception. When Linghu Dai used it, Kang Shinmu's figure immediately appeared in her eyes. Kang Shinmu, don't move. I can see you. Linghu Dai covered her mouth and chuckled. Moving left and right? Do you think you're dancing? Kang Shinmu had indeed wanted to see if Linghu Dai could discover him when he was enveloped by the black concealing dragon stone. However, it seemed that Linghu Dai could easily discover him. Then, with a thought, he activated the concealment effect of the black centipede beast. His concealment ability directly enveloped the black concealing dragon stone and strengthened its effect. He felt the layer of black mist become even more illusory. Any aura that passed through the black mist would be absorbed by it. Originally, 10% of Kang Shinmu's aura could be said to have been emitted through the black mist. Now, only 1% of his aura could be emitted. Linghu Dai's perception ability, as well as that of the vast majority of the experts of the various races, relied on aura to sense and then transform it into an effect that appeared in front of them. Because of that, Kang Shinmu's 2 layers of concealment were stacked together, making it so that Linghu Dai could not sense anything. She knew where Kang Shinmu was, but her eyes couldn't affect him at all. In fact, if she didn't know that Kang Shinmu was there, she probably wouldn't have thought that there were other people in the palace treasury. Kang Shinmu, you're too amazing. I couldn't even sense your presence. Even Linghu Dai couldn't help but exclaim. By now, Kang Shinmu had stealthily moved behind Linghu Dai. As for Linghu Dai, that red-gowned beauty, she was still looking left and right. She was trying to find Kang Shinmu's position. Seeing that, Kang Shinmu was finally able to relax. It would appear that existences on Linghu Dai's level were able to see through the concealment of the black concealment dragon steel, as well as his concealment. However, when the 2 concealment effects were stacked together, it produced an extremely powerful effect. Linghu Dai was unable to sense Kang Shinmu's presence. This made Kang Shinmu overjoyed. Linghu Dai is the strongest expert on the same level as the Dragon Emperor. Even she can't sense me. In the battlefield of the 9 races, there aren't many people who can sense me. Furthermore, how can I run into them so easily? Kang Shinmu was relieved. It seemed that he could bring Xiao Bai out for a stroll. Originally, he was afraid that Xiao Bai would be discovered. However, now that he had the black concealment dragon steel and the double concealment ability of the Mo Wu beast, Kang Shinmu wasn't afraid that they would be discovered. Every time he appeared, he would kill his opponent with lightning speed and then hide again. He would first survey the surroundings to ensure that there was no one else around before launching a sneak attack. He could definitely kill some of the 9 races' servants or even their clansmen who were caught off guard. Apart from the 2 geniuses of the virtual human tribe that we killed, it seems that quite a number of clansmen of the 9 races have been killed. However, their statuses weren't that high. They were just ordinary members of the army. They were mainly here to command the servants of their respective races. There were also some insignificant soldiers who had just entered the battlefield. They were using the dragon warriors of the martial dragon continent to refine their weapons. Kang Xinmu thought to himself. Next, if he brought people around, he would definitely be able to hunt more prey and obtain more divine dragon weapons. He might even be able to cultivate stronger dragon techniques. Now that he had the black concealment dragon steel, Kang Xinmu couldn't wait to enter the battlefield of the 9 races. However, he still suppressed this thought in his mind. After all, he was going to cultivate with Ling Hu Dai, for 10 days. In these 10 days, he wanted to see how much his wind's shadow flowing cloud flash could improve. It would be great if he could successfully break through to the dragon realm. That way, he could roughly estimate when he would be able to reach the heaven realm. The wind's shadow flowing cloud flash was an extremely mobile dragon movement technique. It could pierce through the void and teleport. However, it was a little slow. Only by reaching the heaven realm could one directly teleport through the void with a single thought. Moreover, the teleportation distance would also be greater. The wind's shadow flowing cloud flash was a high-grade source dragon technique. When breaking through from the human realm to the earth realm, it mainly increased the teleportation distance. When breaking through from the earth realm to the dragon realm, it mainly reduced the sense of sluggishness in the void, so that the dragon warrior could perform it a second time faster. Originally, Jiang Shenwu needed about the time it took for a stick of incense to burn before he could continuously use the blade's shadow flowing sunset flash. However, if he broke through to the dragon realm, he would basically be able to use it a second time after 3 breaths of time. This was a qualitative change. And breaking through from the dragon realm to the heaven realm was an even more qualitative leap. Originally, the wind's shadow flowing cloud flash needed a breath's time to be performed. This speed in a battle where thousands of changes could occur in an instant would make it easy for others to seize the opportunity. However, once he broke through to the heaven realm, the casting time would be directly reduced by 10 times. He would be able to teleport through the void with a single thought. More importantly, it would strengthen his perception of the void energy, which would be very beneficial to his future cultivation. As for the difference between breaking through to the Saint Realm and the Extreme Sage Realm, Kang Xinmu did not know. However, after cultivating with Ling Hu Dai, he should be able to gain a lot of insights. After coming out of the palace treasury, Kang Xinmu found Xiao Yuhua and Xiao Bai and told them about the invisible black dragon stone. He also asked them to make some preparations. The next time they set off would be the time when they would continuously hunt the members of the 9 major races. That would be the time when they would earn a lot of guardian points. They had to reach the level of the Dragon Emperor Mentor within a year. Even though they might not be able to reach the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor, they had to be able to defeat opponents of that level. Otherwise, they might not be qualified to participate in the battlefield after a year. This was because it would be a battle between the Dragon Emperor mentors. Wouldn't they be courting death if they participated? No, that's not right. More than a month has passed since the agreement. In other words, we only have a little more than 10 months left. Chapter 4583. Dragon Martial Fortress, Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy Office. The office was very big, and Ling Hu Dai had reserved a training ground behind it. For the next 10 days, only Shi and Kang Xinmu would be here. The 10,000 zhang long body of the mystical dragon did not seem crowded in the training ground. The training ground was not a fighting arena, so there were no spectator stands around it. It was a huge sphere with a radius of 10,000 zhang. The edge of the sphere was a layer of enchantment laid down by the super-mystical dragon. Needless to say, it was a boundary set up by Yu Yaji to separate the training ground from the outside world. The vast space was enough for Dragon Emperor-level dragon martial artists to spar here. As for Kang Shinmu and Linghu Dai, they would not spar here. Instead, Linghu Dai, would be a sparring partner to help Kang Shinmu practice his dragon martial technique. I can just use the blade's shadow flowing sunset flash here. I don't need to care about you? Linghu Dai, asked doubtfully. Yes, not bad. Kang Shinmu nodded with certainty. Then watch carefully. Linghu Dai, was still a little curious. She did not know what method Kang Shinmu was using to train. Immediately after, Linghu Dai, transformed into a flaming divine dragon. This flaming divine dragon was filled with a fiery aura. The moment she transformed, a volcanic heat wave surged out in all directions. Flaming divine sky dragon. This was Linghu Dai's divine dragon essence inheritance. She had reached the 9th level of the Dragon Emperor. Originally, when Jiang Shenwu had first met her, she had only been at the 8th level of the Dragon Monarch realm. However, recently, not only had the students of the Dragon Martial Academy obtained the opportunity to advance, but she had also obtained the opportunity to advance. Therefore, she had broken through to the 9th level of the Dragon Monarch realm in one fell swoop, reaching the peak of the Dragon Monarch realm. When her aura appeared, Kang Shinmu felt it difficult to breathe. This Linghu Dai, was indeed worthy of being ranked 5th on the Dragon Emperor leaderboard. She was too strong. Furthermore, she had transformed directly and hadn't shown any hostility towards him. Otherwise, Kang Shinmu couldn't imagine how much pressure he would be under. Immediately afterwards, the flaming divine sky dragon's figure flashed. Her slender body pierced through the void and leapt to the other side of the training ground. She had directly pierced through the void. She had already cultivated the blade's shadow flowing cloud flash to the extreme saint realm, and had reached the realm of being able to move as she wished. Regardless of whether it was the distance, time, or speed of traveling through the void, they were all under her control. She had entered a state where she had the most freedom. Did you see it clearly? She turned around and asked Jiang Shenwu after casting it for a while. However, she realized that after Kang Shinmu had turned into a dragon, he did not reply to her. Instead, he flew in the direction where she had been previously. After using the blade's shadow flowing cloud flash, the flaming divine sky dragon had left behind quite a bit of flame aura. Most importantly, the power of the blade's shadow flowing cloud flash was still there. Kang Shinmu directly used his devouring power to devour it. The flame aura and power contained Linghu Dai's comprehension and understanding of the blade's shadow flowing cloud flash. More importantly, it was the comprehension and understanding of the blade's shadow flowing cloud flash that had been cultivated to the extreme saint realm. To Kang Shinmu, this was practically an epiphany. After devouring the power and aura of his opponent's first use of the blade's shadow flowing cloud flash, Kang Shinmu's comprehension and understanding nearly exploded his mind. As expected of an expert on the same level as the Dragon Emperor mentor, and in existence ranked 5th on the Dragon Emperor leaderboard, even a casual move of the blade's shadow flowing cloud flash can give you such a deep understanding. Kang Shinmu couldn't help but sigh. In Linghu Dai's eyes, she saw Kang Shinmu suddenly run to the place she had just teleported away from. Then, a black smoke-like devouring power erupted and devoured the aura she had left behind. Then, Kang Shinmu seemed to fall into a state of shock and sluggishness. This kid, is he able to sense something from the aura I left behind after using the blade's shadow flowing cloud flash? Linghu Dai's slender flaming divine dragon body floated in the air. A strange and puzzled look appeared in her pair of divine dragon eyes. This feels a little strange, this kid, could it be that he has some sort of special fetish? Although it was quite embarrassing, Linghu Dai still felt that Kang Shinmu's behavior was a little strange. Of course, to be able to obtain a sky-grade spectral energy weapon after working hard for 10 days was also a good choice for her. Moreover, she could interact more with Kang Shinmu. This kid was someone she couldn't see through. She was sure that Kang Shinmu would be able to rise in the future. He might even be able to reach the same level as her. She was more willing to help such a junior. Kang Shinmu fell into a state of shock. The countless realizations had a very strong impact on him. The Blade Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash was a high-grade source dragon technique that allowed one to shuttle through the void. It was a dragon technique that only spatial attribute dragon martial artists could cultivate. However, this dragon technique used a series of complicated methods to simplify the void shuttle. When it was activated, one's body's innate talent would form a void array, allowing one to smoothly shuttle through the void. Any dragon martial artist of any attribute could cultivate this source dragon technique. However, the key was that if one was a spatial attribute dragon, cultivating this dragon technique would be twice the result with half the effort. It could even be 3 to 5 times faster than other dragon martial artists. Linghu Dai's inheritance blood essence was that of the flaming divine sky dragon. This was clearly a fire attribute inheritance blood essence, not a spatial attribute. For her to be able to cultivate this dragon technique to the extreme saint realm, it was clear that she had spent a lot of effort on it. She had many unique insights that belonged to her. Even if someone asked her about these insights, she might not be able to explain them to them. Only Kang Shinmu's devouring power was different. He could completely replicate the realizations that Linghu Dai had obtained when she had first cultivated this technique. He could also feel how hard and tired she had been when she had cultivated this technique. Not simple at all. Kang Shinmu immersed himself in those realizations for a long time, unable to regain his senses. Linghu Dai did not disturb Kang Shinmu. Instead, she waited for him to regain his senses. An hour later, she saw that Kang Shinmu had once again opened his black dragon eyes. In his eyes, there seemed to be many things that did not belong to Kang Shinmu. This caused her to be somewhat puzzled. She felt that in this 1 hour, Kang Shinmu seemed to have changed a lot. He had clearly been flying there for an hour to comprehend. Could it be that Kang Shinmu had gained such great enlightenment after seeing her use the Blade Shadow Flowing Cloud Flash once? This must be a joke. How could there be such a heaven-defying ability in this world? What now? How do we continue? Chapter 4584. Let's continue. Kang Shinmu took a deep breath. He had obtained a lot of insights regarding the wind shadow flowing sunset flash, but most of them were related to the extreme saint realm. Therefore, there were many things that he still couldn't understand, such as the void array, the void transformation, and so on. Fortunately, Kang Shinmu had some understanding of void energy, so he had some ideas about void energy that even Linghu Dai didn't have. All in all, Kang Shinmu's foundation wasn't very solid, but it was precisely this foundation that he lacked. Not only could cultivating the sun shadow flowing light allow him to escape faster in battle, more importantly, it could deepen his understanding and knowledge of the void, allowing him to better cultivate the inheritance of the void. Of course, void energy and the traditional concept of the void weren't the same thing, but there were some similarities between the two. Since Kang Shinmu planned to cultivate the void energy inheritance, it wouldn't be a waste for him to cultivate the sunset streak. Following that, Linghu Dai began to unleash her blade's shadowy flowing sunset flash. Every time she finished executing it, she would hover in the air and observe Kang Shinmu's movements. She discovered that ever since Kang Shinmu took an hour to react, the time it took for him to regain consciousness was getting shorter and shorter. Although she did not know exactly what was going on, Linghu Dai was able to clearly sense that Jiang Shenwu was improving. Furthermore, his improvement was extremely rapid. It's too fast. This kid's understanding of the void seems to be something that even I don't understand. What's going on? His sunset streak seems to have just reached the dragon level, but it seems to contain a hint of the heaven level aura, and even a hint of the saint level. Is there something wrong with my senses? I can actually sense the aura of the paramount saint realm. Ling Hu Dai, couldn't believe it. She could sense that Kang Shinmu's aura was getting stronger and stronger. Jiang Shenwu's understanding and comprehension towards the blade's shadow flowing sunset flash was rapidly increasing. She could clearly feel this, but why exactly was this happening? What method was Kang Shinmu using to cultivate the sunset streak? 7 days later. As long as Kang Shinmu woke up, Ling Hu Dai, would continuously execute the sunset streak, deepening Kang Shinmu's understanding of the technique. He had obtained the Shadowblade Flowing Cloud Flash's cultivation secret manual, so towards the cultivation of the Shadowblade Flowing Cloud Flash, he originally had sufficient understanding. Right now, his devouring power allowed him to obtain all sorts of comprehension and insights that Ling Hu Dai had when she was practicing the dragon martial skill. His comprehension and understanding of the blade's shadow flowing sunglow flash had also completely surpassed the standards of his peers. His sun shadow flowing cloud flash had yet to break through to the dragon realm. However, his wind shadow flowing cloud flash had already surpassed the effects of the earth stage, and even contained a hint of the heaven stage and even the saint stage. Kang Shinmu didn't know what was going on. Ling Hu Dai, didn't know either. This seemed to be completely different from the ordinary cultivation of the dragon level. After obtaining Ling Hu Dai's understanding and comprehension of the shadowy wind-flowing sunglow flash, what Jiang Shenwu needed to do next was not to continue absorbing her comprehension. Instead, he needed to focus on studying it. As time passed, he would naturally be able to cultivate the shadowy wind-flowing sunglow flash to a higher level. To put it simply, these 7 days of cultivation were just an excellent foundation for Kang Shinmu. Although it didn't allow his Zun shadowy flowing cloud flash to break through to the dragon level, these improvements in his foundation allowed his Zun shadowy flowing cloud flash to rise to a higher level. Most importantly, it allowed his cultivation of the ethereal inheritance to improve greatly. The cultivation of the void inheritance can be put on the right track. I can try to cultivate many Saint Void martial techniques. Although I might not succeed, it can still increase my understanding and knowledge of the void. As long as I have a good foundation, I might be able to cultivate the void inheritance to perfection in the future. If I cultivate it well, it will be a great help to me. Kang Shinmu's idea wasn't bad. Moreover, the demon god ancestor also approved of it. Even the black dragon's consciousness agreed with it, but it didn't express it clearly. This fellow didn't speak much. Sometimes, a simple nasal sound was enough to represent what he meant. In these 7 days, Kang Shinmu had improved his understanding of the void by at least 3 times through Ling Hu Dai, sunset streak. The sunset streak hadn't broken through yet, but it was only a matter of time. Kang Shinmu needed time to consolidate his knowledge before he could break through to the saint level. Moreover, he might even be able to break through to the saint level without the need for the rising dragon marrow. It was said that the divine dragon marrow allowed the divine dragon blood in the dragon warrior's body to obtain a power that surpassed the heaven-level dragon technique. Only then could the dragon warrior cultivate the dragon technique to the saint level. As for the rising dragon marrow, it came from the super divine dragon. For example, Yu Yaji, the dean of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, could also condense the rising dragon marrow through certain methods. Therefore, the rising dragon marrow wasn't particularly expensive. Of course, condensing the rising dragon marrow required some special methods and materials. These were not things that could be obtained in the dragon martial continent. Therefore, to the dragon warriors of the dragon martial continent, the rising dragon marrow was extremely precious and rare. There are still 3 days left. Senior teacher, please attack me. It would be best if you could beat me half to death but not completely kill me. Kang Shinmu made another request. What? When Ling Hu Dai heard Kang Shinmu's request, her expression became even more strange. You want to cultivate the body-tempering dragon technique? You're actually going all out? But it won't be easy. I have to control my strength. If I lose control, you might be killed by me. It shouldn't be that easy to kill, right? Kang Shinmu was also a little anxious. After all, Ling Hu Dai was much stronger than him. If she released even a little more strength, he would really become a dead dragon warrior. If you really want to try, I can control my strength. I'll start with 1,000th of my strength and see if you can withstand it. Ling Hu Dai said. 1,000th? That's too little, why don't we start with 100th? Kang Shinmu couldn't accept that he couldn't even withstand 1,000th of Ling Hu Dai's strength. Wasn't he too weak? Seeing Kang Shinmu's expression of disbelief, Ling Hu Dai covered her mouth and chuckled. You're really... Do you know that I can use 100th of my strength to kill the current number 1 in the Heaven Center region? Even Feng Ligay, who hadn't become the Dragon Emperor's teacher, couldn't withstand 100th of my strength. So strong. Kang Shinmu's expression immediately collapsed. The current number 1 in the Heaven Center region. Even he didn't dare to say that he could reach that level. Since that was the case, he'd better start with 1,000th of his strength. Chapter 4585. Following that, Kang Shinmu was beaten up by Ling Hu Dai in the training ground. It was a real beating. After all, Ling Hu Dai was too strong. She could crush Kang Shinmu like an ant with just a little bit of her power. At the Dragon Emperor level, every level of divine dragon blood essence could double one's power. In other words, the 9th level of the Dragon Emperor was 200 to 300 times stronger than the first level of the Dragon Emperor. Furthermore, Ling Hu Dai's dragon martial technique realm was much stronger than Kang Shinmu's. Therefore, even if it was just 1,000th of her power, Kang Shinmu might not be able to take it. Of course, Kang Shinmu was much stronger than the first level of the Dragon Emperor. Furthermore, he was at the 2nd level of the Dragon Emperor. Of course, his cultivation realm was 7 or 8 levels lower than Ling Hu Dai. This was another huge gap. Ling Hu Dai didn't even use her dragon martial technique. She just casually released her power. The power of the Inferno Divine Heaven came crashing down and covered Kang Shinmu's black dragon body. Even 1,000th of her power was enough to make Kang Shinmu feel some pressure. However, this was still not the limit. Guardian Stance. Kang Shinmu knew that it would be better for his divine dragon tyrant body art if he was injured in the Guardian Stance. Therefore, he directly used the Guardian Stance and let Ling Hu Dai increase her power. Being able to accurately control one's power was extremely difficult for a dragon martial artist. At least, the current Kang Shinmu hadn't reached the level where he could accurately release 1,000th of his power. After all, his speed of improvement was too fast. He didn't have the time to consolidate a lot of his power. However, Ling Hu Dai was different. She usually didn't improve as fast as Kang Shinmu when she wasn't cultivating. Every time she made a breakthrough or grasped a new power, she would definitely spend a long time to refine and consolidate her cultivation. If he had the time, Kang Shinmu would definitely do the same. Unfortunately, the current situation was a little tense. Kang Shinmu couldn't spend his time on this. Right now, he only needed to improve his strength. Under Kang Shinmu's request, Ling Hu Dai increased her strength to 2,000ths. Then 3 in 1,000, at 3,000ths of the power, Kang Shinmu felt that he was already beginning to be injured. His dragon scales were constantly being burned by the Inferno Divine Sky power, becoming charred black. However, this kind of power was still unable to harm his insides. In the end, after Ling Hu Dai unleashed 5,000ths of her power, Kang Shinmu was finally unable to withstand it. His divine dragon body was on the verge of collapsing. This power, so strong. However, the closer one is to death, the faster the body refining dragon's martial technique can improve and break through. Kang Shinmu didn't have much time. This time, he had asked Ling Hu Dai to spar with him. At most, he only had 3 days left. He still had 3 heaven-rank phantom energy weapons on him. He didn't plan to use them to exchange for sparring time with Ling Hu Dai for the time being. After obtaining the black concealing dragon stone, he wanted to go out and see if he could gain anything. If he could increase his cultivation level and the grade of the divine dragon blood essence, then his basic strength would skyrocket. It would also allow his strength to increase rapidly. Therefore, this sparring session could come to an end. However, there were still 3 days left. Kang Shinmu didn't want to waste it. If he could raise the divine dragon tyrant body technique to the next level and reach the heaven rank, that would be great. Of course, it was basically impossible to make a breakthrough in the divine dragon tyrant body technique in 3 days. Just like that, for the next 3 days, Kang Shinmu was constantly attacked by Linghu Dai, Er's Inferno divine heaven power. The pitch-black dragon scales on his body were continuously burned and then recovered. Kang Shinmu even devoured several high-ranked devil generals' devil cores to allow himself to recover quickly. In the past, and even now, these devil cores could be used to exchange for many demon hunting points or guardian points. Now, Kang Shinmu could only devour them and use them to quickly recover and save time. Compared to Linghu Dai, or sparring time, the devil cores of these high-ranked devil generals were really not worth much. Treasuring time was the most important thing. Finally, the 3 days ended. Kang Shinmu's divine dragon tyrant body technique had greatly improved. He had a feeling that if this continued for a period of time, his divine dragon tyrant body technique would soon reach the heaven rank. Most importantly, Linghu Dai, Er's strength was really too strong. Furthermore, her precise control over her strength was not something that the students of the younger generation could compare with. Compared to Linghu Dai, whether it was Ran Ran or Xiao Yuhua, they were all quite lacking. Although Linghu Dai, was stronger, she was also more precise in her control. This caused Kang Shinmu to constantly hover on the edge of death. This was the method to stimulate his body refining dragon martial technique to the greatest extent to make a breakthrough. In comparison, Xiao Yuhua and Ran Ran were a level weaker in this aspect. The benefit that this brought was that Kang Shinmu's divine dragon tyrant body technique had improved by 3 to 5 times. The 10 days are over. The sparring is over. I've gained a lot. At least I've laid a foundation in the aspect of phantom power. The divine dragon tyrant body technique has also improved by leaps and bounds. However, in the end, I still haven't broken through to the heaven rank. I'm afraid that it will still take some time before I can make a breakthrough. Kang Shinmu thought for a while and finally decided that he had to make a breakthrough in the divine dragon tyrant body technique first. This way, he would be more at ease heading to the 9 races battlefield. Of course, this would take up more time. There was not much time left for him. However, improving his strength in this aspect was also beneficial to him. In comparison, Xiao Yuhua and the others also had a lot of guardian points to spend. They had all exchanged for many cultivation resources to raise their own cultivation and divine dragon blood essence. Kang Shinmu was in no hurry to go out. Let's have another sky-grade spectral weapon. Kang Shinmu took out another heaven-rank phantom energy weapon to let Linghu Dai, accompany him to cultivate for another 10 days. If I had known that you still had more, would have given you less time. A heaven-rank phantom energy weapon in exchange for 7 days. You would probably agree, right? Linghu Dai, was a little stunned. She turned and said with a smile. Kang Shinmu would indeed agree. Moreover, 7 days was the amount of time that he had wanted from the start. However, since they had already decided on 10 days, Linghu Dai, could not possibly go back on her word. In the meantime, she first went out to deal with some affairs of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. She also handed some matters over to the other Dragon Emperor teachers. Then, the next day, she returned to the training ground and continued to cultivate with Kang Shinmu. In this process, she was not without benefits. Chapter 4586. Therefore, she was not against the idea of becoming Kang Shinmu's sparring partner. After all, it was also beneficial to her. 10 days passed by as planned. At the end of the last day, Kang Shinmu's divine dragon tyrant body technique finally reached its peak. This was not the first time he had cultivated a dragon martial technique to the peak of heaven rank. However, this divine dragon tyrant body technique was a high-grade dragon martial technique. It was a level higher than the body-tempering dragon martial techniques that Kang Shinmu had cultivated before. When the aura of his divine dragon tyrant body technique reached its peak, it finally broke through when Linghu Dai's next wave of attacks came. The black dragon scales on his body seemed to be covered with a layer of incomparably tough crystal. That was the power of the divine dragon tyrant body technique. The power of the divine dragon tyrant body technique previously only appeared when he was in defense mode. But now, it could be condensed on his body at all times. Even when he was in offense mode, it still existed. In other words, the current Kang Shinmu, under the enhancement of the divine dragon tyrant body technique, had become an extremely powerful existence in both offense and defense. His only shortcoming now was that he did not cultivate any powerful dragon-type martial skill, and could only rely on the Snow Wind Dragon Stone. The power of the Snow Wind Berserk was still alright, but it was a pity that it was a large area of effect attack, and was not strong enough to deal with a small number of enemies, and the power was scattered. Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique has reached the peak of heaven rank. Kang Shinmu's divine dragon body seemed to have become more than twice as strong. The next moment, when Linghu Dai's 5,000th power bombarded his body, it only left some shallow burn marks. This was an extremely strong change. Come. Seeing this, Linghu Dai did not stop. Instead, she controlled her power more precisely and exploded with 6,000th. Following that, 7,000th, 8,000th, in the end, she still used 10,000th, which was 100th of her power. According to her, 1% of her strength was enough to defeat the current number 1 expert in the Heaven Center district. But when this 1% of the power landed on Kang Shinmu's body, it was unable to completely kill him. It only managed to seriously injure him. In other words, after Kang Shinmu made a breakthrough in the Divine Dragon Tyrant body art, his defensive ability directly doubled. Moreover, his power attack stance, defense stance, and nimble stance all had a stronger effect when he unleashed his power. This was especially true for his nimble stance. Originally, this only increased his speed, but after gaining a deeper understanding of void energy over the past few days, his current nimble stance could even increase his perception and the ability to conceal his aura. When he executed the blade's shadow flowing sunset flash, his execution speed had also become slightly faster. To him, this was a huge improvement. Maybe I can try to break through the Divine Dragon Tyrant body art to the Sage level, or even the Ultimate Sage level? Kang Shinmu did not know if the Divine Dragon Tyrant body art had the Ultimate Sage level, but it was a high-grade Source Dragon martial technique, which was actually not a very strong dragon martial technique. It was said that in the Dragon God world, the Source Dragon martial technique was cultivated by dragon martial artists at the level of Dragon King. After reaching the level of Dragon Emperor, what they pursued was the Holy Spirit Dragon martial technique. After all, the Dragon martial continent was only a place to cultivate geniuses. Unless one stood out like Yu Yaji and Zhou Xiaofeng, it was impossible to cultivate the Holy Spirit Dragon martial technique. Therefore, in reality, the Divine Dragon Tyrant body art that Kang Shinmu cultivated was not that strong. It was just that at this stage, for Kang Shinmu, the fastest way to improve was to desperately cultivate this type of dragon martial technique. In addition, even if he obtained the body-tempering Holy Spirit Dragon martial technique, it would not be easy to cultivate it. It would definitely take a lot of time. Even for Kang Shinmu, it would take a lot of time. Right now, what he lacked was precisely time. First, he had to raise his battle strength to the peak of the same realm, then earn more guardian points to exchange for cultivation resources to break through to a higher realm. This was what Kang Shinmu needed to do the most now. The 20 consecutive days of sparring were over. Kang Shinmu's Divine Dragon Tyrant body art had broken through to the heaven tier. Moreover, during this period of time, Kang Shinmu's understanding of the void had also reached a very profound level. At least, compared to many dragon martial artists of the same realm and age, he was much stronger. The breakthrough of the wind's shadow flowing cloud flash was also just around the corner. If he used it more often, who knew when he would break through? This was also a very important escape dragon martial technique for Kang Shinmu. If he could master it to the level where he could use it at will, it would definitely make him much safer on the battlefield of the 9 races. Do you want to continue? Linghu Dai winked at Kang Shinmu, who was still recovering from his injuries. Exchange for a rising dragon marrow. Who knows, it might be able to break through to the divine dragon tyrant body art. Even if it takes 2 or 3 months. I don't have any extra phantom weapons. Kang Shinmu smiled bitterly. Heaven-tier phantom weapons were not cabbages. This time, he was lucky to kill 2 geniuses of the void human tribe and obtain these phantom weapons. To be honest, it was all luck. If he had not devoured and absorbed the power of the Bloody Rose's seal, how could he have killed those 2 geniuses of the void human tribe? If they were not truly invincible among those of the same realm, the void human tribe would not have sent them to the battlefield to train. They must have been very strong, but they were restrained by the power of the Bloody Rose's seal and could not be used. Even now, Kang Shinmu felt that it was basically impossible for him to take on the evil prince alone. Hence, in terms of individual combat strength, he was still quite lacking. Next, he only wanted to rely on the black hidden dragon stone to try his luck on the battlefield of the 9 major clans. He wanted to see if he could pick up some benefits. If he encountered members of the 9 major clans, he would naturally have to kill them. That way, he might be able to obtain some powerful cultivation resources that were comparable to the divine dragon marrow. These things were coveted by the dragon martial artists. However, to the ancient Phoenix clan behind Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy, these things were useless. After Linghu Dai left, Kang Shinmu recovered from his injuries and walked out of the training ground. Then, he started to think. Right now, Linghu Dai could kill the number 1 student in the Heaven's Core District with just 1% of her strength. In other words, just based on the defense of his physical body, after activating the Guardian mode, he was already comparable to the strongest student in the Heaven's Core District. The strongest student in the Heaven's Core District was the strongest student in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. In the past, Yu Tianchang and Feng Ligay were also in this category. Now, Kang Shinmu had finally reached this level. And he had spent less time to reach this level than anyone else. Unfortunately, others did not think that he was too heaven-defying. After all, the environment now was different from the past, and the opportunities were different. Most of the time, opportunities represented everything. The appearance of the Void Crack battlefield had increased the speed of improvement of many dragon martial artists by several times. This was also a fact. Chapter 4587. Kang Shinmu was able to withstand a blow from the strongest student in the Divine Center District, and his opponent could not kill him directly, which meant that Kang Shinmu was invincible. Of course, if he wanted to defeat his opponent, he could not only withstand a blow from his opponent. If his opponent was fast enough, he could definitely launch a series of explosive attacks, so that he would not have time to recover. Therefore, if Kang Shinmu wanted to defeat the strongest student in the Divine Center District, which was Feng Ligay and Yu Tianchang, he had to prepare a lot of devil cores and monster cores. This made Kang Shinmu feel a little uncomfortable. After all, he did not have so many devil cores and devil cores to swallow. Therefore, he needed to become stronger. Fortunately, there were still 8 or 9 months before the next academy competition. After the next academy competition, it was said that there would be an exchange between the 4 dragon martial academies. Originally, the exchange was not held this year, but because of the appearance of the Void Crack and the invasion of the 9 races, this exchange was a summary of the geniuses who could emerge in the 4 academies and even the entire dragon martial continent in the past year. At that time, the Supreme Dragons would definitely take time to come and watch. If they were satisfied with the situation, maybe the Supreme Dragons would pay more attention to the Dragon Martial Continent. In this way, as long as a Supreme Dragon could be sent to the Dragon Martial Continent, the Dragon Martial Continent would not become a battlefield for the 9 races. Therefore, the purpose of the exchange was to select all the geniuses who had recently emerged. Everything was just to make the Supreme Dragons pay more attention. Of course, the situation in the Dragon God's great world was still grim. Hence, it was impossible to set the date of the Academy exchange in advance. This was to prevent the news from leaking out and allowing others to launch an all-out attack on the Dragon God's great world when the Supreme Divine Dragon of the Academy exchange arrived. However, it was certain that it would be after the Academy competition, because only by participating in the Academy competition could one know how much the students of the 4 academies had changed in the past year, and how many strong people had emerged. The Academy competition was a reflection of the students' actual combat power and comprehensive strength. It was a very important summary. And this exchange could even be said to be the exchange of the entire Dragon Martial Continent. At that time, the students would have an exchange, and the existences at the level of the Dragon Emperor would also have an exchange. After all, the real elites had already reached the level of the Dragon Emperor. In other words, Linghu Dai, and the other top Dragon Emperors were under a lot of pressure. As long as a few new super mystical dragons appeared among them within a year, the Supreme Mystical Dragons would at least take a second look at the Dragon Martial Continent. Kang Shinmu could roughly understand this situation. It wasn't that the Divine Dragon didn't care about the Martial Dragon Continent. It was just that the great world of the Dragon Gods was besieged by many races and had no time to pay attention to the Martial Dragon Continent. In fact, it was not just the Dragon Martial Continent. There were dozens of small worlds belonging to the Dragon Gods that had been invaded by other races. Those small worlds were all targets that the major races wanted to invade. Therefore, whichever small world stood out would be the first to be valued by the Supreme Divine Dragons. With the current strength of the Dragon Gods, they could only choose some small worlds with greater potential to protect at most. Kang Shinmu left the training ground and returned to the courtyard they had rented at Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. He saw Ran Ran. Originally, he wanted to ask Ran Ran to teach him the saint-level Dark Dragon Filth controlling technique, but there was no time now. There were only 10 months left. No matter what, Kang Shinmu had to reach the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor before then. As for his cultivation level, it would be best if he could reach the 5th level of the Reincarnation Realm. That way, he could condense the power of reincarnation once, which would greatly increase his combat power. The Dark Dragon Filth controlling technique only greatly increased his recovery ability. It wasn't particularly good at improving his defense. Kang Shinmu didn't want to spend too much time on it. After all, he had to cultivate the more powerful Holy Spirit Dragon Martial techniques. These Source Dragon Martial techniques could only be considered as transitional. After finding Ran Ran, he realized that Ran Ran had also improved a lot recently. He had cultivated with her for 20 days. During this time, Ran Ran's cultivation level had increased by 1 level, reaching the 4th level of the Reincarnation Realm. This was the same level as Xiao Yuhua and Xiao Bai. However, he soon realized that he was wrong. Xiao Yuhua and Xiao Bai had also made breakthroughs during this time. They had reached the peak of the 4th level of the Reincarnation Realm. They had both chosen to break through to the 5th level of the Reincarnation Realm. This level was actually 1 level higher than Ran Ran's. However, neither of them chose to break through directly. They didn't have the chance when they were in the Nirvana realm. Now, they had the opportunity to cultivate the Holy Spirit Dragon Martial techniques. After they cultivated the Holy Spirit Dragon Martial techniques, they could try to challenge the 2nd Reincarnation Beast. They could try to condense the power of reincarnation when they broke through to the 5th level of the Reincarnation Realm. Previously, Kang Shinmu would condense the power of Nirvana every time he broke through to the 9th level of the Nirvana Realm. He would defeat the 2nd Nirvana Beast every time, which was equivalent to breaking through to the 5th level of the Nirvana Realm. This made him 50% stronger than ordinary dragon martial artists when he was at the peak of the Nirvana realm. This wasn't a small amount. Of course, the strength of the power of Nirvana condensed had a smaller impact on the reincarnation realm. Currently, Kang Shinmu's 5 condensed power of Nirvana basically only took up 10% of his strength. In the eyes of Xiao Yuhua and Xiao Bai, this little bit of improvement was negligible since they had already missed it. However, the next reincarnation realm was the most crucial point. In the past, there were very few dragon martial artists in the dragon martial continent who could condense the power of Nirvana at the reincarnation realm. That was because they weren't strong enough. Without cultivating the Holy Spirit dragon martial techniques, how could they defeat the second reincarnation beast? However, it was different now. No matter what, condensing the power of Nirvana once was equivalent to raising one more level of cultivation. Xiao Yuhua and Xiao Bai didn't plan to give up this opportunity. At the very least, they planned to cultivate the Holy Spirit dragon martial techniques and try to defeat the second reincarnation beast when they broke through to the next level to condense the power of Nirvana. Kang Shinmu agreed with their idea. As long as they could successfully break through to the 5th level of the reincarnation realm before the next school competition, they would be able to condense the power of Nirvana. If they could break through to the 6th level of the reincarnation realm, it would be equivalent to reaching the 8th level of the reincarnation realm. This was a completely different concept. Needless to say, their future development potential would be even greater. One must know that the reincarnation realm was the peak of dragon martial artists' cultivation at the Dragon Emperor's level. There was nothing more to it. If they could condense the power of Nirvana 5 times, their final battle strength would increase by 50%. 50% of the reincarnation realm's strength meant that they could fight 1 against 2. This wasn't an ordinary concept. The impact was too great. Chapter 4588. Liang Xiao and Ran Ran were both at the 4th tier of the rebirth realm. They were not in a hurry to break through to the 4th tier. They would probably be stuck at this cultivation level until they were strong enough to break through to the 5th tier of the rebirth realm. They only had one chance, and they could not afford to waste it. Therefore, they needed a large number of guardian points to exchange for the Holy Spirit dragon martial skills. Moreover, it could not be the elementary Holy Spirit dragon martial skills. Since it was equally difficult to cultivate, why not choose a stronger Holy Spirit dragon martial skill? Elementary, medial, and superior grade divine spirit dragon martial techniques. The difference between these 3 grades was like the difference between an elementary grade divine spirit dragon martial technique and a superior grade divine spirit dragon martial technique. Of course, the difficulty of cultivation was the same. However, to them, it might not be that fast to break through from the Dragon Emperor to the Super Divine Dragon. It might take more than 10 years, or even longer. They had enough time to cultivate the advanced Holy Spirit dragon martial skills. However, they needed to seize this opportunity and exchange for the advanced Holy Spirit dragon martial skills first. Unlike the Holy Spirit dragon weapons, the Holy Spirit dragon martial skills could be written down by a dragon martial artist who cultivated to the peak of the heaven tier. Therefore, the Supreme Divine Dragon had left many for Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. However, the requirements for this level of Holy Spirit dragon martial skills could not be relaxed and given to students to cultivate. If one did not have enough talent, it would be a complete waste of time to forcefully cultivate a higher level dragon martial skill. It was very likely that one would not be able to cultivate it even after a year or so. Therefore, these Holy Spirit dragon martial skills could only be exchanged with guardian points. During this time, Xiao Yuhua and the other 3 had chosen the advanced Holy Spirit dragon martial skills that they wanted to cultivate. Unfortunately, they still needed a large number of guardian points to exchange for them. If the 5 of them did not share their guardian points equally, they might have enough guardian points from killing the 2 geniuses of the virtual human tribe. Unfortunately, if they wanted to exchange for the advanced Holy Spirit dragon martial skills, they would have to kill at least 7 or 8 of those geniuses of the virtual human tribe. That would be a heavy task. Kang Shinmu felt that his chances were not high. Of course, with the existence of the hidden black dragon stone, they could still try. Come on, let's go. We'll try to find one or two more members of the 9 great races to kill. This time, we'll go to the battlefield of the Talisman Water Race. Kang Shinmu led the 4 of them and set off. The 4 of them were slightly excited. They had witnessed the effects of the concealing black dragon stone. It was practically flawless. Even a peak dragon emperor like Linghu Dai was unable to detect Kang Shinmu's tracks. This was extremely terrifying. More importantly, the black concealing dragon stone could hide them all. It was a must-have item for sneak attacks and assassinations. When they left Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy, Kang Shinmu had already activated the black concealing dragon stone's function to hide the 5 of them. After concealing themselves, their view of the outside world was a little blurry, as if they couldn't see clearly. This was because of the black concealing dragon stone and the power of Kang Shinmu's Mo Wu beast. Of course, this didn't affect their observation of the surrounding environment. Unfortunately, under such circumstances, they could only observe their surroundings with their naked eyes. While the black concealing dragon stone concealed their auras, it also prevented them from sensing the auras of others around them. This could be considered a flaw, but it was completely acceptable. After all, others couldn't see or sense them. This was already very powerful. More importantly, they could still see others. Within the range of the black concealing dragon stone's concealment effect, even Kang Shinmu's perception was weakened. However, his perception was still stronger than the other 4. It wasn't to the extent that he couldn't sense anything. It was just that his perception was not as sharp as it was outside. When they set off from Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy, the 5 of them had not transformed into divine dragons. They were still rather cautious when moving around the Dragon Martial Fortress. The 5 of them had to move together. Otherwise, if one of them fell behind, that person might leave the range of the black concealing dragon stone. Fortunately, there weren't many people in the Dragon Martial Fortress. The 5 of them gathered together and found a wide path. Soon, they arrived at the plaza. They planned to leave the plaza and head for the battlefield of the Talisman Water Race. The servants of the Talisman Water Race were known as water slaves. They were some of the living beings of the Talisman Water Race's great world. These living beings were underwater creatures formed from elemental power. They had low-end spiritual intelligence and were basically the servants of the Talisman Water Race. Of course, water slaves were also divided into different grades. Some of the higher-grade water slaves had more spiritual intelligence and were the chief water slaves. In the Talisman Water Race's clans and sects, many chores were done by water slaves. The chief water slaves even had the opportunity to cultivate the power of the Talisman Water Race. The environment of the Talisman Water Race was also rather complicated. However, this had nothing to do with Kang Shinmu. As long as he saw them, he would just kill them. They quickly flew out of the Dragon Martial Fortress and headed for the void. When they reached the void, the 5 of them heaved a sigh of relief. This was because the range of the black concealing dragon stone had expanded to more than 100 zhang. There was no need for the 5 of them to stay too close. Even if they fell behind a little, they wouldn't be out of the range of the black concealing dragon stone. They knew the direction of the battlefield of the Talisman Water Race, so they headed straight for it. When they were about 50 kilometers away from the Dragon Martial Fortress, they could already sense the faint aura of water slaves in the surroundings. The aura of these water slaves had entered the range of the black concealing dragon stone, so they could sense it. This also meant that the owner of the aura of these water slaves was already dead. It seems that many people have killed water slaves in the battlefield of the Talisman Water Race, and many of them have died. However, there are also dragon martial artists who have died here. For the 9 major races, they just want to use all kinds of methods to lure us out and then kill us. The water slaves are what they use to lure us out. For the 9 major races, it didn't matter how many slaves were killed or injured. The key was that their deaths had to be worthwhile. If they could lure some dragon martial artists to attack and then kill them, their battle merits would increase, which would lay a stronger foundation for their eventual victory in the battlefield of the 9 major races. Therefore, it could be said that now that Kang Shinmu and the others had the black concealing dragon stone, they were simply the bane of the 9 major races. Of course, we must pay attention to one thing. We absolutely cannot go to the battlefield of the other races. After all, this black concealing dragon stone was given to me by the ancient Phoenix clan. The ancient Phoenix clan is well aware that we have the black concealing dragon stone. If we go to the battlefield of the ancient Phoenix clan, the matter of us killing the geniuses of the void human race will definitely be exposed. The ancient Phoenix clan has joined forces with us. At least on the surface, we can't fall out with the ancient Phoenix clan. Kang Shinmu thought to himself. As long as they continued to kill the servants and clansmen of the Talisman Water race, Void Human race, and Demon God race, the ancient Phoenix clan would be even happier. This was because the ancient Phoenix clan had a higher chance of winning in the end. They were basically raising a killer. They would use more cultivation resources to raise stronger dragon martial artists, and then let these dragon martial artists fight on the battlefield of the other races. Chapter 4589. On the Dragon Martial Continent, a delicate balance was maintained on the battlefield of the 9 major races. Kang Shinmu led Xiao Yuhua and the other 3 to the battlefield of the Talisman Water tribe. They soon entered the depths of the battlefield. Not long after, they heard the sound of vibrations and ripples in the void. It was coming from not far away. Clearly, there were powerful existences fighting over there. Kang Shinmu and the others slowly flew over. Before transforming into dragons, their flying speed was indeed a little slow. However, under the cover of the hidden black dragon stone, there was nothing they could do about it. After all, it was better than running out openly and being discovered. By the time they reached the place where the sounds of battle were coming from, the battle had already ended. It's the students of Donghuang Yanggu College. They killed the demon slaves. Kang Shinmu and the others quickly saw the situation on the battlefield. It's them. Kang Shinmu took a look and saw that there were a total of 7 students from Donghuang Yanggu College. He even knew 3 of them. Lin Yuji was the opponent he had encountered when he had first participated in the academy tournament at Donghuang Yanggu College. Lin Yuji could be considered a genius of Donghuang Yanggu College. At that time, because of Zhua Xiaofeng, she had defeated Kang Shinmu in the academy tournament and secured her position in the Kaiyang district. However, she had personally paid a visit to Kang Shinmu to apologize. Lin Yuji's character was not bad. That matter could not be blamed on her. It was all Zhua Xiaofeng's doing. Lin Yuji could not do anything about it. Now that he saw Lin Yuji again, he realized that she had actually reached the level of the Dragon Emperor's inherited blood essence. She was at the 2nd level of the Dragon Emperor, and her cultivation had also reached the 4th level of the Samsara realm. Her battle prowess was no longer weak and could barely compare to Xiao Yuhua and the others from half a month ago. Among the 6 Donghuang Yanggu College students with her, Kang Shinmu knew 2 of them. They were Qin Fengyu and Lu Hua. The 2 of them had treated Kang Shinmu very well. When Kang Shinmu first joined Donghuang Yanggu College, they had taken good care of him. Right now, their cultivation realms were slightly lower than Lin Yuji's. Even though the grade of the divine dragon blood essence and their cultivation realms were lower by 1 level, in terms of battle prowess, the 2 of them could still contend against Lin Yuji if they joined forces. At this moment, the 7 of them had joined forces to kill 2 water slaves. The 2 water slaves were equivalent to the 1st level of the Dragon Emperor, who was at the 6th level of the Reincarnation Tribulation realm. With their strength, it was relatively easy for them to deal with these 2 water slaves. It could be seen that the 7 of them were led by a young man. This was not the first time they had killed water slaves on the battlefield of the Talisman Water clan. They directly plundered the spoils of war and directly flew into the distance. Brother Jiang, what should we do? Follow them? Or find another way? Liang Xiao was a little hesitant. After all, if they followed them, all the water slaves along the way would have been killed by this group of people. They might not be able to get any benefits. However, Kang Xinmu frowned. Within the range of the black hidden dragon stone, although his perception had weakened, he could still perceive some things. They were very subtle, but even very subtle things attracted his attention. Let's follow them first. If I'm not wrong, it's very likely that the clansmen of the Talisman Water Clan are following them and planning to attack. Kang Xinmu thought for a moment and said. The reason why they did not attack directly was that they wanted Lin Yuji and the others to kill more water slaves, so that they could see the specific abilities of Lin Yuji and the others and deal with them in a targeted manner. After all, many dragon martial artist students had many tricks up their sleeves, such as divine dragon weapons, divine dragon martial techniques, and so on. The 4 dragon martial academies had opened up the system of taking human-level divine dragon weapons for free, and then giving a 20% discount to make up for the points. These human-level divine dragon weapons were all used to save lives. Therefore, the clansmen of the Talisman Water Clan would also be more guarded against this method, in case the other party ran away. With caution, they would first collect enough information, and then they would be able to catch all of their opponents in one fell swoop. At this moment, Lin Yuji and the others were still unaware of the existence of danger. The group of 7 moved quickly in the void. The harvest this time is not considered much, but it is not little either. 2 water slaves. The number of protection points each of us can be considered not bad. I hope we can kill more water slaves. Someone said. However, Qin Fengyu's face was a little worried. I keep feeling a little uneasy, as if I'm being watched. Why don't we go back first? Fengyu, there's no one around here. Among the 7, the young man who led the group looked around and said confidently. His eyes emitted a faint golden light, as if he had some detection ability, but he did not notice Kang Xinmu who was following behind them. With the double concealment of the black concealing dragon stone and the power of the centipede ink beast, basically no one on the battlefield of the 9 clans could find traces of Kang Xinmu and the others. Of course, they also did not discover the clansmen of the Talisman Water Clan who might be hiding in the surroundings. He looked at Qin Fengyu and Lin Yuji. These 2 girls were delicate and beautiful, and they were the only 2 girls in the team. He wanted to have both of them at the same time. This young man was called Lin Shuang, and he was considered a student of the Donghuang Yangwu College who had recently risen. Before the invasion of the 9 clans, he had been risking his life on the demon hunting battlefield, and his intuition towards danger was considered very sharp. However, it was precisely because he had repeatedly escaped from the line between life and death that he now trusted his eyes too much. His eyes were trained in a detection type of origin source dragon martial technique, and he was confident that no one could hide from his eyes. He looked around, and his confident look made Lin Yuji and the others relax a little. I really think there might be a problem. Qin Fengyu was still a little worried. She had a good relationship with Lu Hua, and the 2 of them even had the intention of developing a relationship. Lu Hua's innate talent was not bad, but compared to Lin Shuang, he was naturally inferior. However, the key was that he did not train in any detection skills, and was not as useful on the battlefield as Lin Shuang. Therefore, Lin Shuang could become the core of the team, and their safety depended on him. Why don't we go back first? Lu Hua hesitated for a moment, and asked Qin Fengyu in a low voice. This is not very good, right? Qin Fengyu was stunned, and felt that it was not very appropriate to leave her teammates and go back. Lin Shuang glanced at Lu Hua, and there was some disgust in the depths of his eyes. After all, to him, Lu Hua and Qin Fengyu were too close. If he wanted to get Qin Fengyu, he had to defeat Lu Hua. He liked to constantly suppress Lu Hua in the team's operations. Chapter 45-90. Although he said so, in fact, Lin Shuang had his own selfish motives. As the leader of the team, he had obtained more guardian points than the others. After all, the safety of the whole team depended on him. However, he had not been able to accumulate enough guardian points because he was very cautious. Every time he went back, he would spend all the guardian points and transform them into his own strength. This way, he felt safer. Now, their team had only killed 2 water slaves. If they wanted to go back, wouldn't they be unable to exchange them for anything? There was no need to go back so early. Anyway, he was very confident in his eyes. He had killed at least 10 water slaves on the battlefield of the Fushui race. If he killed 2 more now, he could go back and try to break through to the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor's blood essence. Now he was at the 3rd level of the Dragon Emperor's blood essence, and his improvement speed was quite fast. The appearance of the battlefield of the 9 races was indeed a catalyst for some geniuses to break through. As soon as he said so, 2 young men next to him immediately chimed in. Yes, let's kill 2 more water slaves before we go back. Anyway, with Brother Lin Shuang's ability to detect danger, we will be fine. Qin Fengyu, don't tell me you don't believe in Brother Lin Shuang's ability? The 2 young men chuckled and spoke in a relaxed tone. Obviously, they also trusted Lin Shuang's eyes. His detection dragon was very strong and had helped them avoid danger several times. Hearing so many people talking, Qin Fengyu was a little embarrassed. Well, let's kill 2 more water slaves. There should be no problem. After all, I just have a feeling. This feeling is not necessarily true. She felt that she might be too sensitive. In the battlefield of the 9 races, she often had this feeling. However, nothing had happened with Lin Shuang, so she did not think too much about it. Lin Yuji heard their conversation and did not take it to heart. This kind of thing was common in the team. She just kept observing the surroundings in case of any sudden danger. Soon, they saw 2 water slaves flying quickly in front of them. In the void, the 2 water slaves were like flat fish thousands of feet long. Their bodies were light blue, gliding in the void at an extremely fast speed. This was the characteristic of the water slaves. They flew extremely fast in the void. Do it. The 2 water slaves, who looked like flat fish, had a flat mouth in front of them. They had no eyes, and their light blue skin looked a little sticky. They were originally flying in the air, but they were suddenly blocked by Lin Yuji and the others. A terrifying attack power was directly unleashed by the 7 dragon warriors, blasting towards the 2 flat fish. The 2 water slaves were at the 6th level of the reincarnation realm, which was equivalent to the 1st level of the Dragon Emperor's inherited blood essence. They were as strong as the 2 water slaves that Lin Shuang's team had just killed. Therefore, they did not hesitate and immediately attacked. However, just as they were about to make their move, suddenly, countless blue lines of energy condensed into appearance in the surroundings, and then they actually instantly condensed into a water prison that enveloped an area of 30 kilometers. When this water prison appeared, it directly trapped Lin Shuang's team of 7, as well as the 2 flat fish water slaves. Before the battle was over, they had already become trapped beasts. Trapped beasts still had to fight. They had to first kill the 2 flat fish. Even though they were very panicked after the water prison appeared, the water prison had trapped them together with the water slaves. How could they leave the water slaves alone? The attacks of the 7 great dragon warriors immediately fell on the bodies of the 2 water slaves, bombarding them and forcing them to retreat. The water slaves' defense was very strong. Their whole body was light blue and sticky, and it was obvious that they had some means to divert the force, so they were not fatally injured. Then, the 2 water slaves retreated, sticking close to the edge of the water prison. Although they could not get out, they did not want to continue fighting with Lin Shuang's team. Obviously, the experts of the Fu Shui tribe had made their move. The water slaves had successfully completed their mission as bait. To kill Lin Shuang's team, they obviously could not rely on these 2 water slaves. Oh no, we have fallen into a trap. At this time, the expressions of the 7 people in Lin Shuang's team changed greatly. Qin Fengyu was a little flustered. Lin Yuji and Lu Hua were relatively calm. As for Lin Shuang, his face was extremely ugly. He looked around and stared at the void. The people of the Fu Shui tribe? You can come out quickly. He had never thought that there would be a time when he would make a mistake. The opponent's concealment ability was too terrifying. His eyes, he actually could not see it. Now that they had fallen into the opponent's ambush, it would be very difficult for them to escape. One had to know that at this moment, they couldn't even use the East Emperor seal on their wrists. That was a distress signal sent to the Dragon Emperor Mentor. However, within this year, the Dragon Emperor Mentor was not allowed to step into the battlefield. Therefore, they could only rely on themselves to survive. Since the opponent had set this trap, it was obvious that they had planned this for a long time. It was very likely that all their tricks were already known by the opponent. After all, they had also fallen into a difficult battle before. Some of the stronger water slaves had to use all their strength to deal with them. Under the different gazes of the 7 people, 3 light blue figures slowly appeared from the void and appeared outside the water prison. They were 3 figures that looked like water. Behind them, there were countless runes that looked like water sparkling, containing the profound meaning of water. They condensed into a giant water figure that looked down at the battlefield. The Fu Shui tribe cultivated the profound meaning of water and could condense the water god figure to descend and control the origin water power of heaven and earth. The water figure seemed to be the ancient origin water god. There were 3 figures in total, and they surrounded the 3 Fu Shui tribe members as they floated in the air. The appearance of the 3 water god phantoms caused Lin Yuji and the others' expressions to turn ugly. These 3 members of the Talisman Water tribe were obviously at the 6th level of the reincarnation realm. Moreover, their Water Upanishad inheritance had reached level 3 of the Emperor level. One of them had even reached level 4 of the Emperor level. The water prison they had used came from their Fu Shui divine weapon, which was roughly equivalent to an Earth-grade divine dragon weapon. They did not look like the top geniuses of the Fu Shui tribe, but their battle strength was definitely higher than Lin Shuang's group of 7 added together. Profound meaning of water, descend. Curse technique, myriad water ancient god torrent. Chapter 4591. Torrent of ancient god myriad waters. This extremely powerful talisman water curse was probably equivalent to an earth-grade divine spirit dragon martial technique. Moreover, it was executed by 3 people at the same time and had been cultivated to the peak of heaven grade. The towering waterfall crashed down with a loud rumble, as if the heavens and earth were collapsing. The 3 talisman water tribe members burst forth with attacks, their eyes filled with satisfaction that they had finally achieved their goal. As for Lin Yuji and the others, all 7 of them had deathly pale faces. Let's attack together and block the attack. Lin Shuang's expression changed drastically as he immediately gave the order. He was still very strong, and his divine dragon form instantly erupted with the strongest power. The high-level origin source dragon martial technique that he had cultivated was unleashed without reservation. A pillar of molten light shot up into the sky, bringing with it boundless fiery light as it collided with the towering waterfall. Unfortunately, his strength was far too weak compared to the torrent of ancient god myriad waters. The pillar of molten flame rushed into the waterfall, but it only managed to create a small gap in the waterfall. It was unable to stop its momentum, nor was it able to weaken its power. At the same time, Lin Yuji, Lu Hua, and Qin Fengyu attacked together. Although the situation was despairing, they could not just wait for death. Resistance was obviously necessary, but they would only know if resistance was effective after resistance. The combined strength of the 6 swept toward the torrent of ancient god myriad waters and collided with it. Immediately, a wave of energy condensed from various attributes spread out in all directions, exploding with boundless power. The descending torrent of ancient god myriad waters slowed down for a moment, but it still managed to completely destroy the combined strength of the 6 people. Then, as if the sky had collapsed, it enveloped the 7 dragon martialist students. The entire area was filled with the sound of an explosion of power. Lin Yuji's heart raced as she felt her divine dragon body being battered by the torrent of ancient god myriad waters. Endless pain radiated from her body as her divine dragon body was being torn apart, causing her to retreat rapidly on reflex. The 7 of them had been battered by the torrent of ancient god myriad waters. Their divine dragon bodies had been blasted far away, and their bodies were covered in incomparable wounds. However, they had not died. The 7 of them were somewhat stunned. After all, logically speaking, they would not be able to withstand such a terrifying water talisman curse attack. Logically speaking, the torrent of ancient god all water should have engulfed them like a tsunami, and then shredded them into pieces. But now, they were only sent flying, and they were powerless. The torrent of ancient god myriad water, which had originally formed a waterfall, was now scattered into the surrounding void like water flowers. In the void, what appeared before the eyes of Lin Yuji and the others was a scene that they had never imagined. The 3 members of the Talisman Aqua tribe who had ambushed them had actually been killed at this moment. There were no signs at all. It was as if someone had launched an attack on the clansmen of the Talisman Water tribe when they activated their torrent of gods of ancient water. Then, their torrent of gods of ancient water lost its power because they were killed. The illusions of the water gods behind the 3 Talisman Water race clansmen had already collapsed. What appeared next to them were 5 dragon warriors. Their 10,000 feet long divine dragon bodies appeared outside the gradually collapsing water prison. The bodies of the clansmen of the Talisman Water race were completely shattered like pieces. The 3 hearts of profundity were collected by someone. They were proof that they had killed the clansmen of the Talisman Water race. In the silence of the void, Lin Yuji felt the serious injuries on her body, but they were not fatal. She saw the 5 dragon warriors attack the 2 water slaves next to her. Among the 5, the black dragon, who was the leader, did not attack. But the remaining 4 were all stronger than Lin Shuang. They are students from Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. That black dragon looks familiar. Could it be, it's Kang Xinmu? After all, Qin Fengyu and Lu Hua had known Kang Xinmu the earliest. They were also the most familiar with him among the 7 of them. At this moment, they finally recognized the familiar figure of the black dragon. It seemed to be Kang Xinmu. Kang Xinmu? Lin Shuang's face darkened when he heard the name. We were saved by this person. This person is a treacherous villain who betrayed our Donghuang Yangwu College. Lin Yuji glanced at him but did not say anything. She knew very well why Kang Xinmu had left Donghuang Yangwu College. Wasn't it all because of Zhou Xiaofeng, the dean of Donghuang Yangwu College? But she did not announce it. After all, it would not be beneficial for her to do so. Lin Shuang did not have much contact with Kang Xinmu before, so he was not clear about this matter. Now, he felt that Kang Xinmu was a traitor of Donghuang Yangwu College. No, they actually took the hearts of profundity of the 3 clansmen of the Talisman Water race. Lin Shuang quickly became jealous when he saw the actions of Kang Xinmu and the others. Those were the hearts of profundity of the Talisman Water race. The value of each heart was equivalent to at least 10 hearts of water slaves of the same level. For them, it represented countless cultivation resources, and even special rewards. These 3 clansmen of the Talisman Water race were lured out because of us. We have a reason to ask for one of them. Lin Shuang snorted coldly. He no longer cared about his injuries and flew directly in the direction of Kang Xinmu. Lin Shuang! Lin Yuji shouted. Her face was a little pale. She knew that if Kang Xinmu had not appeared with his people, the 7 of them would probably have died. In other words, Kang Xinmu had completely saved the lives of the 7 of them. But Lin Shuang still wanted to ask for the spoils of war? This was simply a dream. Of course, Lin Yuji also knew that Lin Shuang did not want to be saved by the people of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. This would make Donghuang Yangwu College seem inferior. Therefore, Lin Shuang wanted to fight for the benefits. If he could get a share of the benefits, then Donghuang Yangwu College would not lose face. However, would Kang Xinmu let him have his way? Kang Xinmu and the others followed Lin Yuji and the others. Although they were slower, the other party did not deliberately hide themselves, so they could still keep up. If it were not for the hidden black dragon stone, they would not have been able to transform into dragons. Otherwise, they would not have let the 3 clansmen of the Talisman Water race release the Talisman Water torrent. Chapter 4592. Kang Xinmu and the others began to collect the spoils of war. 3 profound hearts of the Talisman Water tribe. This was a great harvest. However, many clansmen of the 9 great clans had died on the battlefield of the 9 great clans. Therefore, they probably wouldn't get a special reward like the divine dragon marrow. However, there would definitely be a special reward. It all depended on what the ancient Phoenix clan would give them. If they were nurtured properly, they could greatly damage the Talisman Water tribe, the Demon God tribe, and the Virtual Human tribe, and affect their battle achievements. For example, if Kang Xinmu and the others hadn't appeared, Lin Yuji and the others would have been killed. The Talisman Water tribe would have gained a lot of battle achievements, and they might have taken the lead in the competition among the 9 major races. Kang Xinmu and the others killed the 3 clansmen of the Talisman Water tribe and the 2 water slaves next to them. They collected the spoils of war and were about to leave. However, when they saw the dragon martial artists they had rescued flying over, they didn't leave in a hurry. Instead, they waited where they were for a while. Did they want to thank them? Kang Xinmu didn't know. However, he hadn't seen Qin Fengyu, Lu Hua, and Lin Yuji for a long time. It was good to communicate with them. Of course, he couldn't stay here for too long. After all, the battlefield of the Talisman Water tribe was very dangerous. Moreover, the 3 clansmen of the Talisman Water tribe had just been killed. Soon, Lin Shuang, who had transformed into a flaming divine dragon, flew over, followed by Lin Yuji and the others. 7 dragon martial artists arrived in front of Kang Xinmu and the others. All of them had transformed into divine dragons and had inherited essence blood at the level of the Dragon Emperor. Their bodies were thousands of feet long. In terms of momentum, they seemed to have overshadowed Kang Xinmu and the others. Moreover, they were a little aggressive. Kang Xinmu. Lin Shuang opened his dragon mouth and said in a cold voice, "We lured the enemies out of the cave. We also have a share of the spoils of war." At least one profound meaning heart of the Talisman Water tribe. Kang Xinmu almost burst out laughing when he spoke in such a righteous manner. Wasn't this guy taking things for granted? Even if Lin Shuang and the rest weren't the bait, Kang Xinmu had also vaguely sensed the presence of the Talisman Water tribe members. However, he wasn't too sure. Moreover, they had just saved their lives. Not only were they not grateful, they actually came to ask for their spoils of war. Kang Xinmu wondered if Lin Shuang's brain was damaged. He narrowed his eyes and looked at her. "This is your own idea, right? Lin Shuang, don't be unreasonable." At this time, Lin Yuji flew to the front. She glanced at Kang Xinmu and said, "Kang Xinmu, thank you for saving us this time." Lin Shuang didn't know what to say, so please don't mind him. "This time, it's all thanks to you guys. Otherwise, I'm afraid we would have lost our lives." "Lin Yuji, you're more sensible." Kang Xinmu sighed. Why was it that the students of Donghuang Yangwu College all had the attitude that they were number 1 in the world? In the past, Chu Qingyun was like this. This Lin Shuang was also like this. No one knew what to say. "You. Lin Yuji, stand behind me." Lin Shuang was nearly driven mad with anger. Why were his own people standing on the opposite side and talking about him? His words didn't know what to say. Lin Shuang had always liked Lin Yuji. Lin Yuji was talented, calm, and decisive. Most of the time, the only person in the squad that could help him was Lin Yuji. But now, Lin Yuji was deliberately disagreeing with him. He didn't expect this. And this seemed to be because of that Kang Shinmu. Lin Shuang. Lin Yuji suddenly sighed. All along, we've always treated you as our captain and supported you with all our strength. But this time, you've gone too far. Kang Shinmu just saved us, but you didn't even say a word of thanks. Instead, you want to ask for your spoils of war? This is what we deserve. After all, we were the ones who lured the 3 Talisman Water Tribe members out. Lin Shuang braced himself and said. If you think so, then there's nothing I can do. Kang Shinmu's eyes narrowed. He suddenly said, oh right, wasn't there someone called Chu Qingyun in your Donghuang Yangwu College? Do you know how he died? Chu Qingyun? Hearing this name, the expressions of Lin Shuang and the others changed. Chu Qingyun was a famous genius of Donghuang Yangwu College. But one day, he suddenly disappeared, never to be seen again after entering the battlefield. His squad had also disappeared, never to be seen again. Now that Kang Shinmu suddenly mentioned this, could it be, I can kill those 3 Talisman Water Tribe members? Naturally, I can easily kill all of you as well. Kang Shinmu's voice was cold as he said this. At this time, he truly did not wish for a conflict to arise between himself and the Martialist Dragon. Otherwise, when Xiao Bai was sealed by the Scarlet Rose fan, he would have directly agreed to the evil prince to help him hunt down the Martialist Dragon. That way, his harvest would have been much greater. But now that the Martial Dragon continent was facing a great calamity, the situation would be even more difficult if there was internal strife. Thus, Kang Shinmu did not wish to point his spear at the Martialist Dragon. But Lin Shuang did not understand the situation. When Kang Shinmu said these words, Lin Shuang was a little frightened. After all, the scene of Kang Shinmu's group slaughtering the 3 Talisman Water Tribe members had just occurred in front of them. Clearly, the battle strength of Kang Shinmu's group far surpassed that of Lin Shuang's group of 7. Even if they outnumbered them, it was basically impossible for them to win. Moreover, if they really fought, who knew who Lin Yuji's group would side with? Leave now and return to the Martial Dragon Fortress to recuperate. Kang Shinmu shook his head and said, we will explain today's matter to you when we return. Lin Yuji, Qin Fengyu, Lu Hua, it is very dangerous for you to be on this battlefield. In the future, you must be very, very careful. Do not be as rash as today. All right. Without waiting for Lin Shuang to speak, Lin Yuji immediately agreed, Fengyu, Lu Hua, let's go. The 3 of them immediately turned and left. Lin Shuang's group of 4 was left behind. Although they did not like Kang Shinmu, they could not really fight with Kang Shinmu here. Not to mention the fact that they could not win, even if they really had the strength to fight. What would they do if the Talisman Water Tribe ambushed them? It was impossible for anyone else to appear and save them again. Let's go. Lin Shuang had nowhere to vent his anger and could only leave in this situation. He brought his 3 subordinates and quickly flew into the dark void in the distance. Seeing that they had all left, Kang Shinmu heaved a sigh of relief. This place was rather dangerous, and they could not stay here for long. However, Kang Shinmu's group was not willing to go back now. They still wanted to stay here for a while. After all, this harvest wasn't much to them. Kang Shinmu led Qin Fengyu's group of 4 away. Chapter 45-93. It's very likely that our Donghuang Yangwu College's genius, Chu Qingyun, died in the hands of this Kang Shinmu. I, Lin Shuang, must see what tricks he has up his sleeves. Let's follow from afar. Perhaps this fellow is in cahoots with the 9 great tribes. Lin Shuang led his men and followed Kang Shinmu from afar, not making a sound. Although the 4 of them had transformed into mystical dragons, they were still too far away. Therefore, they were confident that they would not be discovered by Kang Shinmu. The two sides were separated by dozens of miles. If Lin Shuang had not left a mark on Kang Shinmu's body, he would not have been able to follow Kang Shinmu's group. Unfortunately, they did not know that Kang Shinmu's perception was extremely strong. Without being shrouded by the black concealing dragon stone, Kang Shinmu could even sense the aura of dragon martial artists from hundreds of miles away. Therefore, Lin Shuang's actions were like stealing a bell while covering one's ears. Therefore, in Kang Shinmu's opinion, Lin Shuang's actions were like burying one's head in the sand. Kang Shinmu ignored them. However, since they had followed him, he had to entertain them. He knew that Lin Shuang and the others must have left a mark on their bodies. Therefore, they could sense their location. However, once Kang Shinmu activated the black concealing dragon stone, Lin Shuang and the others would lose track of Kang Shinmu. Remind them to return to the dragon martial fortress as soon as possible. The consequences of disobedience are very serious. Kang Shinmu narrowed his eyes and flew forward with Xiao Yuhua and the others. This was the battlefield of the Talisman Water Race, not the originally quiet void. Now, cultivators of the Talisman Water Race could appear at any time. Whether they were water slaves or clansmen, the chances of them appearing increased. This was because Kang Shinmu was heading deeper into the battlefield of the Talisman Water Race. After flying for more than 300 miles, Kang Shinmu sensed the aura of the Talisman Water Race in front of him. Immediately, he activated the black concealing dragon stone's ability and shrouded the 5 of them. Their auras instantly vanished. Liang Xiao chuckled as he followed Kang Shinmu through the void. These fellows from Donghuang Yangwu College are really stubborn. Why do I feel like the students from Donghuang Yangwu College are up to no good? Xiao Yuhua chuckled and said, "We don't need to do anything in this place. If that guy overestimates himself and follows us, he'll really be courting death." Xiao Bai snorted lightly. Are the students of Donghuang Yangwu College all so clueless? Or does that fellow have a grudge against Kang Shinmu? As she said this, Xiao Bai looked at Kang Shinmu suspiciously. Did you do something bad in Donghuang Yangwu College that made the students of Donghuang Yangwu College hate you so much? Yes, did he sleep with their goddess or something? Liang Xiao hurriedly chimed in. When Ran heard this, she immediately glanced at Liang Xiao. Liang Xiao retracted his head resentfully. He scratched his head and added, "I'm just joking. Pretend I didn't say anything. There is indeed a goddess in Donghuang Yangwu College. Her name is Yu Tianchang. Her status is about the same as that of Feng Ligay from our Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Arts Academy." Kang Shinmu said calmly, "It was indeed her who caused me to leave Donghuang Yangwu College. However, we are just friends. If he hadn't been so close to Yu Tianchang, Zhou Xiaofeng wouldn't have been jealous of him and attacked him. Of course, it would be meaningless to talk too much about these things." All in all, Kang Shinmu was doing well now. He had gotten the promotion he deserved in Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Arts Academy. The environment here was fairer, and he was even taken care of. This was the right he had fought for with his talent. Kang Shinmu didn't really want to kill Lin Shuang and the others. After all, the Dragon Martial Continent was at a critical juncture now. It would be better to have one less person die. Therefore, after they came here, they hid with the ability of the hidden black dragon stone. They could already sense the aura of the Talisman Water Clan in the surroundings. If Lin Shuang and the others chased after them without thinking, they would probably be killed. At that time, Kang Shinmu wouldn't save him again. Although Kang Shinmu didn't want to see the dragon martial artists killed. However, if the other party wanted to die, there was nothing Kang Shinmu could do. Moreover, it was obvious that Lin Shuang didn't get along with Kang Shinmu and had a lot of opinions about Kang Shinmu. If it weren't for this critical period, Kang Shinmu would have taught such a guy a lesson. If Lin Shuang didn't listen to his advice and never returned to the Dragon Martial Continent, it would have nothing to do with Kang Shinmu. The disappearance of Kang Shinmu and the others' aura clearly reminded Lin Shuang and the others that they had lost them. This place was dangerous, and they had to hurry back. But Kang Shinmu really didn't expect that there would really be people in this world who would voluntarily send themselves to death. When Lin Shuang discovered that Kang Shinmu and the others' aura had disappeared, his face darkened. That guy's aura has disappeared. I'm afraid he's really in cahoots with the Talisman Water Clan. Should we go to the place where they disappeared to take a look? I don't think so. If we continue to chase, what if we fall into a trap of the Talisman Water Clan? Let's go back first. Lin Shuang's face was cloudy. In the end, he was still somewhat afraid of the dark void ahead. This battlefield of the Talisman Water Clan was extremely dangerous. Lin Shuang had cultivated the dragon eye technique and could see further, but he still couldn't predict all the dangers that would come. The main reason was that after the sneak attack, he had indeed become timid. If it was in the past, he might really have chased after Kang Shinmu. In the end, they gave up on chasing after Kang Shinmu. However, they planned to go back and spread the news about Kang Shinmu's sudden disappearance in the depths of the Talisman Water Clan's battlefield. They were afraid that he really was in cahoots with the 9 great clans. As for how they colluded, they didn't need to say much. In any case, once the news spread, there would definitely be people who would automatically make up the story. In any case, as long as they could slander Kang Shinmu, it would be fine. Kang Shinmu had saved them, but they treated Kang Shinmu this way. This was undoubtedly because Kang Shinmu had defected from Donghuang Yangwu College. This was all secretly spread by Zhou Xiaofeng in Donghuang Yangwu College. Otherwise, why would the students of Donghuang Yangwu College have such deep hatred for him? It was a pity that Kang Shinmu didn't know all this. Using the ability of the Black Concealing Dragon Stone, he brought Xiao Yuhua and the other 3 to hide in the depths of the Talisman Water Clan's battlefield. He wasn't worried about being discovered. Even if he was discovered, he had a way to escape. Unless an opponent of the super mystical dragon level attacked, he would definitely be fine. Chapter 45-94. The members of the Fu Shui tribe appeared in front of Kang Shinmu and the others again. Moreover, this time, he could see them with his naked eyes. It was a man and a woman from the Seal Water tribe. They were wearing luxurious clothes made from the light blue material of the Seal Water tribe. They were handsome and had the power of water Upanishad twirling around them. Waves of water rippled around them. These 2 people are very strong. I'm afraid they are equivalent to the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor, and above the 7th level of the Reincarnation Realm. I'm not too sure about the specifics. After all, there's a layer of hidden black dragon stone blocking them. Let's follow them first. Don't expose ourselves. Jiang Shenwu quietly communicated with the 4 of them for a while before following the direction the other party was heading in. The other party flew very fast. Before long, the water god Phantom appeared behind them and flew into the distance at a speed several times faster than before. Unfortunately, Kang Shinmu and the others were inside the hidden black dragon stone and could not move that fast. They could only watch as the other party flew away. The direction they're chasing seems to be the direction in which the Donghuang Yangwu College students just left. Liang Xiao was a little surprised to see this scene. They aren't chasing after them, are they? Ran asked in surprise. Very likely. Kang Shinmu said in a low voice, but these 2 members of the Fu Shui tribe are very strong, even stronger than the 3 from before combined. Even if we ambush them, we probably won't be able to kill them instantly. Of course, we might be able to take them away in a battle. However, this place is not suitable for a long battle. Let's follow them first and see what happens. Under the cover of the hidden black dragon stone, the 5 of them followed as fast as they could. Unfortunately, they could not transform into dragons. Otherwise, they would not have lost them. In the end, the 2 water god phantoms quickly disappeared in front of them. Kang Shinmu could only chase in the direction they disappeared. Whether or not he could make it in time, he had tried his best. However, he did not expect that the two members of the Fu Shui tribe would soon appear in front of them again. A man and a woman from the Fu Shui tribe stood in the void in front of them. They seemed to be in a dilemma. The auras of Lin Shuang and the others have separated from the front. Kang Xinmu's senses were more acute. At this moment, he narrowed his eyes and said, "The four of them actually split up." Impressive. They must have sensed the pursuit of the two Talisman Water tribe members in advance, so they split up. There are only two members of the Talisman Aqua tribe. Looks like no matter what they choose, they will let two of them go. As for the other two, they are unlucky. Xiao Yuhua was also a little surprised. If the four of us split up, the two Talisman Water tribe members will definitely split up as well. Our chance has come. Kang Xinmu made a prompt decision. Let's choose the girl first. Once they're separated, we'll rush forward and kill the girl. After that, we'll see if we can find any traces of the other man. If we can, we'll kill both of them. The combined strength of the five of them was quite terrifying. Even if these two Talisman Water tribe experts were the strongest experts who could participate in the battlefield, they still couldn't win against the five of them. In fact, even if the evil prince were to fight against the five of them, they basically wouldn't lose. The most important thing was still the Blood Rose fan. This was the highest grade demon weapon that a demon emperor could use. It was even a little higher than some heaven grade Saint Spirit Dragon weapons. It was a specially made super powerful demon weapon. It was not a transcendent demon weapon, but it was much more powerful than a heaven-grade Saint Spirit Dragon weapon. As for the two Talisman Water tribe members in front of them, they naturally didn't have such a good item. Of course, Kang Xinmu and the others wouldn't be careless. They've split up. Let's go and catch the girl. Kang Xinmu chased after the girl as fast as he could. At the same time, the two Talisman Water tribe members split up. They were the strongest on this battlefield. They had the ability to stay alive or at least delay for a while. As long as they could delay for a while, the Talisman Water tribe's reinforcements would arrive quickly. Therefore, they weren't too worried about them splitting up. Kang Xinmu and the others slowly chased after them under the cover of the black concealing dragon stone. When Kang Xinmu sensed that the two's auras were getting further and further away from each other, they immediately left the black concealing dragon stone. Although the black concealing dragon stone could make their auras disappear and others wouldn't be able to sense their presence, Kang Xinmu and the others' speed was restricted. Furthermore, under the cover of the concealing black dragon stone, they would not be able to use dragon martial skills like the wind shadow flowing cloud flash, nor could they use the instant magic ring. Once they used these dragon martial skills or combat weapons, their auras would leak out, and it would be no different from not having the concealing black dragon stone. Therefore, Kang Xinmu cancelled the cover of the black concealing dragon stone and used the sunset shadow flowing flash as fast as he could. He brought the four of them and flashed in the direction of the Talisman Water tribe woman. If the sunset shadow flowing flash was used to teleport Kang Xinmu alone, it would consume a lot of energy. Teleporting 5 people like he did this time would consume a lot of energy. Moreover, the casting speed would be slower, and the furthest distance would be shortened by 5 times. The dragon martial skills in this world were all fair. Of course, there wouldn't be such a heaven-defying method that could allow Kang Xinmu to teleport a few people as easily as he teleported himself. However, the Talisman Water tribe woman didn't fly too far away. The sunset shadow flowing flash was just enough to reach the other party. Of course, this was under the condition that the other party didn't change her direction. Kang Xinmu and the others instantly teleported through space. When they reappeared, they discovered that they had appeared in a void. There was nothing around them. Hide. Kang Xinmu immediately activated the black concealing dragon stone's ability, allowing the 5 of them to remove their divine dragon forms and hide. Here, he sensed the aura of one of Lin Shuang's group of 4. As for who it was, Kang Xinmu didn't know. Anyway, it was the aura of one of the 4. This made him certain that the Talisman Water Tribe woman would definitely pass by this route. Moreover, Kang Shinmu didn't sense the aura of the Talisman Water Tribe woman. Therefore, she was definitely behind them and would pass by them soon. At that time, the Talisman Water Tribe woman would be alone. Prepare for battle. The Talisman Water Tribe woman will be here soon. We must kill her in one strike. Of course, if she resists, I will block all the attacks. All of you attack with all your might. Don't hold back. Kang Shinmu instructed. In about 5 minutes, they heard the sound of surging water in the direction they were staring at. Then, a huge water god's shadow appeared in the void in the distance. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.